A pirate ship was raging through a violent storm while lightning tore the sky apart. A wounded man with an injured shoulder and a sword in his hands was cornered against a wall. While tensing up, the man started to cough blood. The man saw a lot of blood splattered onto his hand from his cough. Angered and frustrated, the man shouted, "What the hell was happening?" The man was grabbing onto his injured shoulder, realizing that things that normally happen in movies or drama. It has become a reality for the injured man. Sweat and tears started to roll down from the man's face, from the frustrations and fear. The man questioned himself. Was he going to die in a place like this? One of the pirate goons started to laugh at the man, saying that to look at how the bastard was trembling. The pirate captain started to arm his arrow, mocking him. Was he done already? The man thought that he was just an ordinary person who liked playing games. And what the hell happened to him to end up in this situation? The pirate captain said that now it was getting kind of boring and he shot his arrow at the young man. The other pirates followed the captain and shot their arrows as well, piercing the young man. Losing his balance, the man fell on his back. The pirate captain put his shoe on the fallen man's chest, bidding him farewell. The man thought that everything was happening to him because of a certain scammer, a trickster. The captain raised his broadsword and brought it down onto the man's chest, while the man was only able to shout, "Damn it!" The scene then cuts to a day before this incident occurred. A young man was washing his teeth in front of his wash basin mirror. After brushing, he went to this room in the dark. Turning on his computer, the young man sits in front of it. Just like any other day, his goal was to play that game. He says how groaning after coming home from work was becoming a natural occurrence to him. He then starts to play that game. The name of this game was called The Dark World, to describe what it was like. This game was a place without any hopes or dreams. It's filled with never-ending wars, corrupt churches, thieves, monsters, undead, where the darkness of the world ruled after the dimensions were destroyed. This game has already been out for 20 years by now. This game didn't offer much in terms of graphics, nor does it have a large player base, but the young man has been enjoying this game since the day it was launched. While the game loaded, he wondered what kind of opponent he would face that day. But first, he checked whether his character was doing well or not. The game loaded, welcoming him to the dark world. The young man was in glee while looking at his in-game character, which was a knight in a blood-red suit with a large broadsword standing on the stage. The name of this character was Requesting PK. Its level was 95, and it belonged to the Blood Knight class. He also stated that normally he was a stagnant water user of the Dark World, but he was able to clear the campaign with one character only, the Blood Knight. The reason why he had only one cleared champion was because he was an absolute hardcore user, and he was among the worst of the hardcore users, a hardcore PvP user. Hardcore mode is a game mode where one is unable to revive their character if they die, and they lose their levels and items upon death. There aren't many tough players who can enjoy a one-to-one PvP play in the first place, but there are even fewer players who have completed the campaigns on extreme hardcore difficulty. Because no matter how good a player is, they will die fighting one day. But being on the edge is thrilling. On top of that, his PvP Blood Knight was the strongest character in the Dark World's history. He was even dubbed the Blood Knight Master within his community, and it was hard to find an opponent who was on the same level as him. The young man, while drinking water, notices a notification on his screen. 2 people had sent him a private DM in his chat. This was rare because after his Blood Knight's kill count went over 500, he stopped getting many PvP requests. But this was a great day since he got a new opponent or an ally. He greeted them, saying, "How are they?" The game prompted him to either shake hands to become comrades or fight and kill them. The young man went on to see who was challenging him. 3 players were challenging him this time, and he scoffed, saying that at those levels they all need to come at him at once. The challengers are thinking that the Blood Knight might be crazy for trying to take on them all at once. Then they all attacked him at once, saying that they would steal all his items. The Blood Knight raises his hands, planning to get started. With just a single attack, the entire area was filled with the Blood Knight's magic. All 3 players instantly got thrown away by the blast. The level 80 Soul Shaman started to get scared, shouting that who the hell was he? He was a freaking monster. Some sort of blood-red mist came out of the night, surrounded and grabbed the paladin around his neck. Using the mist as a rope, the Blood Knight pulled the paladin towards his hand. The knight, using the momentum, instantly grabbed the paladin by his neck. Both of the paladin's teammates were scared that everything was going to end like this. Was this happening? The teammates in the chats pleaded with the paladin to use his sword of light. The Blood Knight growled that instead of chatting, they should be using their skills to fight him. With just one attack, the Blood Knight instantly exploded the Paladin. The teammates were completely stunned, saying that it didn't even make any sense that a level 80 Paladin could be killed like this in just one attack. The Blood Knight then turns his head towards the rest of the teammates. He growls, saying that they are going to be next. The Berserker and the Soul Shaman look at each other, sharing secret glances. Then, both of them instantly leave the PvP server, making the Blood Knight shout in rage. The Blood Knight was left standing alone. The young man cussed, saying that this match was maybe another random pick. He was annoyed at how rude these people were. He wished that at least they should have left a nice item before leaving. He then remembered that there were 2 PvP fight invitations and turned to see the other one. He got a bit surprised by the name of the account. The invitation was from an account named Trickster29. He was quite impressed by how relentless this old man was. The name of the id was Trickster. He was one of the most famous Dark World players. But he had become a loser who just gives up his items after losing. Requesting PK then laughs at Trickster that it's been only 10 days since he lost, and he was challenging him again, commending his courage for continuously challenging him, but he was just hurting his ego. In front of him, a level 93 martial artist character spawned in the PvP server. Surprised by this class change, the Blood Knight asked that this time he was a martial artist. But then suddenly, he noticed something about the character. He realized that the Trickster was at level 93. He was confused as to how a person can level up so fast in just 10 days. And the clothes that he was wearing were one of the highest ranking sets, the Will of the Eastern Mythological Soldiers. Blood Knight then chatted to the Trickster about whether he had bought these items, and his level was too high as well. Did he auto-farm as well? The Blood Knight also realized that even if someone bought or auto-farmed, even then, it is impossible to level up to 93 levels in just 10 days. The Trickster then said that he was talking too much and that he should hurry up and attack. The young man felt kinda strange, cause was there some campaign in the game that he was unaware of? But since he always got good items, it didn't matter much. The match between the Blood Knight and the Trickster caused massive explosions throughout. The Blood Knight defeated Trickster with his blood mist, mocking him for how hard it must be to lose every time. The knight got happy because he thought that he would get a precious will set in hardcore. The young man realized that he should probably close the room first, along with an anticipation of what other items he would get. But then suddenly, he started to get the fighting mode message, which told him that he could either shake hands and become comrades, or he could fight and kill them. The young man was confused by this statement because the fight was already over, but he couldn't understand why the game was in fight mode all of a sudden, and thought that it was just a game bug. The Blood Knight then suddenly saw something in front of him. A young blonde man suddenly spawned in front of the Blood Knight in the game, to which he asked how he got there. This blonde young man was none other than the Trickster himself. The young man was surprised that the Trickster came in his original character. Also, the level of Trickster was 100, which was that the character was created on the day the Dark World game launched 20 years ago. The young man was worried about what the hell he must be thinking to throw away such a rare character in just a single hardcore PvP match. The Blood Knight inquired the Trickster that even after he closed the room, how he was able to enter, was he using some kind of cheat because he was going to report him. Trickster answered him, saying that this was not any kind of cheat, and invited him to attack him. The Blood Knight said that the Trickster was being cocky for using his real account to try to fight and kill him. Trickster taunted him, saying that didn't he had a kill count of 99? Didn't he want to make it 10,000? The Blood Knight responded to his taunt by saying that was he was going to sacrifice his real account to bring his kill count to 10,000? Trickster spawns out his magical wand in his hand. Trickster confidently asks, "Sacrifice? What sacrifice?" Because he was going to win in the end. The Blood Knight laughed at the Trickster that where was he getting all this confidence from when even his fingers weren't working well? But the young man realized that something was off. He asked the Trickster how did he knew that the Blood Knight had 999 kills. Trickster answered that one can just Google it, but the Blood Knight added that not even the internet can know anyone's total play log because no one can see other players' total play log. The Blood Knight then asked again that had he not really used a cheat. Trickster got annoyed, saying that this much bullshit was enough, and started to charge his attack. Trickster then shouted at the Blood Knight to just come at him while releasing a water-type attack. The water attack then turned into icicles, then solid ice, spreading out in all directions. This spell was called the Frozen Earth. This will cause magic damage to spread out in all directions, and the movement speed of those who were affected by the spell will be decreased by halves. The attack spread as water to the entire arena, then froze solid into icicles. The young man was annoyed that the trickster just said what he wanted to without hearing him, even once. He didn't even answer him about the question about the playlog, while starting the fight right away with an awakened skill. The trickster's legs started to float in the air. The young man smirked, knowing that the trickster wanted to win from him no matter what. But even then it was futile because the Blood Knight used his blood mist tentacles to pick up the trickster, saying that he was done once he was in his hands. The Blood Knight then assumed that the trickster was now out of mana, because he used his awakened skill right from the start, mocking him that, how could he win the PvP like that? The young man was confident now since he had his skill, which he had saved to screw him up. And this was the end. A lot of blood-red color dark mana started gathering around the hand of the Blood Knight. He shot the concentrated attack towards the trickster, shouting the attack name, the Whirlpool of Blood-Sucking. This attack was an awakened active skill of the Blood Knight called the Whirlpool of Blood-Sucking. It absorbed the HP of the target. The more HP the attacker has lost, the more HP was sucked out of the target. The trickster started to writhe in pain from the attack. The Blood Knight laughed, saying that since he had only 10% of his HP left, he would be taking all of his while continuously laughing and mocking him. Suddenly, two emblems of fire started to surround the Blood Knight, shocking him. The Blood Knight was unsure how he was able to do this since he had used an awakened skill already. A mirage of a dragon appeared behind the trickster, which was charging a massive fire attack with its mouth. The Blood Knight was shocked to see another awakened attack, the Dragon's Breath. The Dragon's Breath was the ultimate awakened skill of the Flame type. It summoned the ancient dragon, Draconis, which imbued Flame-type magic damage, which affected the opponent with Burn-type status. Abnormality. While the trickster charged up his attack, the Blood Knight just looked at him in shock, shouting how he had two awakened attacks up his sleeves. The Blood Knight was dumbfounded because he knew that a character could have only a single awakened attack, but Trickster had two. When the breath fell on the Blood Knight, he cursed to the trickster before dying. A system window popped up saying that the Blood Knight's character requesting PK had died, and his bravery will be forever remembered. The young man started to shout in rage while slamming his keyboard and table. He kept on shouting and cussing, saying that the trickster must have used some sort of cheat to have two awakened skills, because he knew that he wouldn't be able to win with just one. The young man picked up his keyboard to slam it on the ground, but he calmed himself down and put the keyboard back on the table. He kept on shouting that the trickster was a piece of shit for using a cheat to kill him. Then he instantly created a new hero in the game and named it You Cheater Pose. He went into the DM of the trickster, shouting to him how he was a piece of shit to use both awakened skills of ice and fire attacks. Did he cheat to get 2x XP when he wins, while still cussing him? The trickster read the chat, but he remained quiet. The young man kept on cursing the trickster, same as before. Calmly, the trickster just invited him to come in. He came into the room, showed a middle finger, shouting and asking Trickster where he lived in real life. The trickster told him to calm down and game him something. The young man then asked what it was. The trickster gave him a shield and a portion. The young man got annoyed at this and shouted that he was being mocked by getting those shield and portions. He shouted that what about his demon sword, his all-resistance shield, and his 3-skill helmet? The trickster just said sorry. The man then shouted to the trickster, saying, how was he able to use cheats when he was this old? The trickster calmly reminded him that he wasn't using any cheats. He then shouted, what hell was it then? The trickster then answered that it was a hidden quest. The young man was confused as to what hell he was talking about. How can there be anything hidden when the game was released Daria years ago? So he has been playing all this time without knowing about a hidden quest like this? He asked the trickster to tell him about it so that he could also get cracked like the trickster. The trickster just remained silent, which caused the young man to accuse him that he cannot say it because he has been cheating instead. Trickster repeated himself again, saying that he was not cheating, and it was a hidden request. Cutting him off, the young man threw his armor and portions on the ground. Grabbing by his collar, the young man asked the trickster to quit with his bullshit and tell him about it, so that he can also have an op account, but the trickster replied that he might regret it, as it is not something that he might take on easily. The young man shouted that why would he not be able to take on the challenge? And talking about regret, his biggest regret was fighting a cheater like him and losing his original Blood Knight account. The trickster said, all right, since he needed this so badly, he will receive an invitation before the day was over. He shouted, what the hell was he talking about? He was then forcibly thrown out of the room, and the man was just left shouting, "Hey!" On searching his name in the search bar, the game gave a notification that any player with that name did not existed in the game. The young man was confused, and he re-entered the trickster's name in the search bar letter by letter to make sure he didn't make any spelling mistakes. The game then gave out the same notification once more, that no one with this name exists in the game. He was surprised, left wondering why the trickster was gone from the game. He held his hands on his head and wailed about how pissed he was. He had worked so hard to grow that Blood Knight account. Just how long was it going to take him to get to that level with his new character? He just wanted to sleep and think about it later. But then suddenly, he heard someone calling out uncle to him while he was standing somewhere. The young man was standing in an amusement park, wondering why he was there, while a little girl called out to him, saying how hungry she was. The young man then remembered that he was there because it was his day off, and he came there with Jiwon. He then asked her when she got there. The girl then told him how he wasn't responding to anything that she was saying, asking what he was even thinking about. She said he was hungry. The man apologized, saying that he got a bit distracted. The little girl scoffed, saying whatever, and pointed to a stall selling churros, wanting to eat there. The man then mocked her, saying that she just ate right now. Was she a pig or something for wanting more? The girl complained that can't he buy something for a pretty niece like her, scoffing that she is going to wait on the bench because her legs hurt. He sneered while walking to the churro stand that she was now just like his mom, telling her to wait while he goes and buys it. But he was feeling that everything felt so hazy, as if he were dreaming. Suddenly, Jiwon was not there anymore. On the bench instead of Jiwon, a blonde kid appeared to sit. The kid looked a bit familiar, 5 to the young man. The kid then shouted to the young man that if he didn't want to get hurt, he should be sitting down. The young man just looked at the blonde kid and exclaimed what was happening. Everything around him turned white. While the blonde person shouted to him to sit down one last time, then suddenly he heard a man's voice shouting how annoying he was being now, while a large hand hit his chest. Getting hit, the man flew across the place and got hit on the side of the deck wall. An old bearded man shouted at him to sit because he was already so dizzy, and shouted for someone to pull the rope. The young man couldn't understand what was going on. He asked where he was and what was happening, but the old man said that if he didn't want to become shark food, then he should start to get moving. The young man looked at his trembling hands. Wondering what he was wearing, it looked as if he was wearing something within a game. And how was he here? Because he fell asleep on his bed yesterday. He tried to sleep on his bed yesterday, but since he was so frustrated from the loss that he couldn't even if he tried. The last night before sleeping, he was grinding a bit on the game, clearing the first level, then falling asleep after getting on the ship of Chapter 2. Hearing the word ship made the young man realize something, that this place was the storming ocean and the ship, and he was wearing the outfit that one can see only in the games. The young man realized that this was actually the Dark World game, and he was the new game character he created, You Cheater Pose. He just sat there in shock at what happened when one of the ship's crew told him to stop getting in his way. Then suddenly, an arrow hit the crew member in the head, and he fell in front of the young man. What was left was the crew member's lifeless dead body in front of the young man. He looked over the deck when someone shouted to fire, while he was scared of what was happening. Over the deck, he saw that the pirate captain and his crew were climbing up the ship. The captain then ordered his crew to kill all of the ship's crew. The young man got worried thinking about what he should do now. But first, he decided to evade all of them for now. He looked toward his left, where he found some big boxes. He ran toward the boxes, sprinting behind them, hiding from sight. One pirate crew pinned down one of the ship's crew, shouting, "How dare he run away?" while the ship crew member pleaded to spare his life. Using the sword, he killed the ship crew. Seeing this, the young man thought to himself that it would have been much better if he had picked up a helmet while he was raising his character. Seeing someone die in front of their eyes was way different compared to seeing them get killed in-game. The pirate instantly found him hiding behind the boxes, smirking. What should he do with him? The pirate told the others that another rat was hiding in here behind the boxes. The young man realized that he was in deep trouble. A lot of arrows flew through the air towards someone. All of the flying arrows pierced the young man, throwing him down. He fell on his back with a lot of force, shouting in pain. The pirate captain laughed with others at how he was shivering, completely unbecoming of his huge body. He then told one of the pirates to get rid of him. The young man wondered if this was how he was going to die. He damned it all. Until yesterday, he was just a normal middle-aged guy who loved playing video games. He wondered how all of this had happened. While he lay there, the pirate swung his large sword, shouting for the young man to die. To protect himself, he covered himself with his hand, and with a large slash, a lot of blood fell on him. But it didn't hurt the young man, confused. He looked up to see that the blood on him was not his blood. With a large slash, the pirate's head was chopped off clean from the body, with electric sparks flowing everywhere. The headless body of the pirate fell on a young man. He groaned from pain, shouting at what was happening. Every single pirate was pointing somewhere, shouting at everyone to be careful, as it was a mage. The young man was also surprised. On top of the mast, there was a girl with a lot of sparks coming out of her wand who was standing. The pirate captain ordered everyone to catch that magician. She scowled at them, saying with sarcasm as if they could ever catch her, "Insects." The girl then jumps down from the top of the mast to the top of the deck. Shouting the chant, "Razor Wind," she releases her first magic. The magic created blades made up of wind, which went through all of the pirates, cutting them up. The pirate captain just looked in shock. He shouted at his crew at what they were doing, calling them idiots. He shouted at them to not just stand back, but to shoot their arrows as well. The girl dodged the 2 arrows, shouting, "How annoying this all is." The young man over here was barely holding himself together through pain, with all the wounds, thinking, what the hell was this situation? The mage then throws a health potion to the young man, shouting at him to get back to his senses. He holds up the bright red portion up to his hand, realizing what it is. He realized that it was a portion. The girl comes up to him, opening her hoodie. She shouts at him to drink it fast unless he wants to die there. He saw her and recognized her face. He recognized her face because it was the exact same one as the elemental mage from the Dark World. The pirate goons found them and shouted that now was the chance to catch and kill both of the heroes. She casts her windblade magic again, cutting the goons while angrily shouting to stop being so annoying. The young man realized that since this is the Dark World online game and the portion in his hand is a real healing portion, then he can use it. He drinks the portion in one breath. The portion starts working in an instant, relieving him of his pain instantly. The mage shouts to her that for how long he was going to daydream, and he should at least work the portion's worth. He felt thankful for her saving him, but he didn't like how condescending she was towards him, thinking that as a mage, she is going to be enough alone for the entire fleet though. Looking at her, he saw that she was shaking and trembling. He thought that even though she acted all brave, she was trembling now. He understood the reason for her trembling was that she was all out of mana. Even though she didn't use it more than 10 times, she was all out. Looking at her, the pirate goons talked to each other about whether it was all over or not. Confirming it, they asked if they should kill her. The mage girl looks at him, shouting at him not just to stand but to do something. He responds that it was mean of her to talk like this. He thought that she just saved him so that she could use him as a human shield or something. The girl shouted, "How could he say something like that even after she saved him?" But then one of the goons came and said that they both know how to mess up and die. Saying that he sung his word at her, the young man stepped in and held her back, while blocking his swing with his shield. He angrily shouts that he will do what she says, but he gives no promises on whether he will be a good human shield or not. He then back-kicks the goon in his solar plexus, knocking him out and disarming him. Pulling out his sword, he invites the goons to fight him, saying that rather than simply dying, he will put up a struggle. He says that it also matters to him, because he has to maintain his pride as a man. While he said that, he suddenly felt as if his body was getting hot and his blood was boiling. Suddenly, a blood-red mist of mana starts to form around the young man's body, enveloping him in red. The red blood mana started to flow out of his body and to his sword as well. The pirate captain and his goons looked at the man and started wondering what the hell he was doing, thinking that he was performing some sort of magic spell. The bald goon swung his axe, saying that safe to attack because he was the person who was trembling in pain a few minutes ago. So he told others not to be scared and finish him off. But the young man was easily able to block this huge swing with the use of his wooden shield. With a big smile, he says to the goon that this is how it feels to feel boiling blood throughout the whole body, and that he likes that a lot more. He was a blood knight after all. Using his blood-red mist-coated hand, he goes to grab the bigger, muscular goon. The captured goon screams for his life to save him, but he turns the blood-red mist into the shape of a blade. Using the blood-red mist blade, he instantly splits the goon into 2 parts. The other pirates and the captain get absolutely shocked upon seeing the scene in front of them. The captain starts to shout, "Who was that guy?" and turns to one of his men to not just stand, but to attack or kill him. But before anyone could even go to attack, he came himself, completely shrouded in the blood-red mana, holding his sword, making the captain shout in terror. Instantly chopping up all of the pirates, he feels a pain simmering up in his whole body. He was feeling as if a seething blood was controlling him. He felt a sense of superiority and freedom, an unbearable pleasure. He felt as if his consciousness was sleeping away somewhere far. The young man, now completely lost control of himself, screams a terrifying scream, scaring everyone. Everyone starts running away from the Blood Knight. Unable to find somewhere, they all jump into the water, screaming for someone to save them. After that, his blood-red mana subsides and he calms down. The mage girl then asks him whether he was okay or not. Saying nothing, he just plops to the ground, worrying the mage girl, who asks her again what was wrong with him all of a sudden. He falls to the ground, losing consciousness, while the mage girl was beside him, shouting at him to wake up. The scene then cuts to the next day with a clear blue morning sky. The young man then wraps a bandage around himself, worried about something. The fight the previous night caused him to lose too much blood, and he was sure that if he continued at this rate, he might really die. Looking up at the sky, he assessed his situation. He had barely survived the previous fight, but still couldn't believe what a ridiculous situation this was. He wondered whether he was actually in the game of the Dark World because he felt everything. He looked at her, thinking that even the girl looked exactly like the game's elemental mage. Feeling uncomfortable, she stared back, asking what he needed and why he was staring at her. He asked her to tie the bandage around his arm for him because he was unable to do it with just one hand, but she refused, saying that she didn't want to because it was dirty. The young man just accepted his fate, saying that there was nothing left to do now, when suddenly a bag with glass bottles clinked at his feet. The young man remembered that it was his item bag that he had forgotten about before. Inside the bag, there was another portion bottle as well, which he pulled out. Feeling happy, he started drinking the portion in front of the elemental mage girl, who saw that he had multiple portions at hand. She instantly crawled to his bag, wanting to take a bottle for herself as well, but the young man shouted that she was trying to do. Taking two out of his bag, she smirked and said that he also had a portion as well with him. The young man shouts at her to give it back, but she said that what would he do if she said that she didn't want to? Justifying, she said that she gave him a portion the last night as well, but he disagreed, saying that she gave him one, but why was she taking two? She said that she helped him when his life was in danger, so she would get no profit from her if she only took one back. But the young man stood up and grabbed her arm, saying that he needed them now since he was hurt. He would give her back two later, but she still held her ground, saying that she didn't want to. Now, getting angry, he asked her to give it back while he was still being nice. And she, still holding her ground, said that what would he do if she didn't? Just as they were continuing to fight, the captain of the ships shouted at them from behind to say something. The captain, standing on the top of the deck, shouted that he could see the port, the city's South Harbor port. The young man was surprised that they reached the shore this fast. He recognized the area. It was the South Harbor port, the second stage of the Dark World, second act. Their ship safely arrived and docked at the South Harbor. The captain announced it and then told his crewmen to disembark in orderly fashion. The young man then scouted the area. He was worried that in a place where there isn't a single naval soldier to protect the ship, would he be all right or not? He was also worried about what might have happened if he had come in his original character. While they were moving down the ship into the port, he heard the bickering of some people arguing about something. Upon hearing closer, he realized that there was a lockdown applied on the court because many sea bandits were lurking throughout the open seas. The young man understood that just like the setting of the Dark World, the harbor was already raided by pirates. There were smoke signals, broken city walls, and bloodstains. It was really serious. He was also happy that he was a blood knight. Because of his skill of flowing blood, he was able to recover with just one potion. Just as he was going through the city, someone called out to him to stop where he was standing. A few soldiers had stopped him. They asked, since he came from abroad and was armed, whether was he a soldier or not. The captain of the ship interrupted them, saying that this man had saved them from the pirates. Diverting their attention, he called them over to another place to talk, and the knights agreed as well. Over to the side, the captain pulled out some gold coins, giving them to the knights. The young man understood what they were doing. After that, he went and thanked the captain for helping him at the checkpoint. He was indebted to him now, but the captain instead thanked him back, saying that if he wasn't there, then they would have all died. So he asked this to consider as a reward and bid him farewell. The young man then thanked the captain and bid him farewell as well. He thought that the captain was correct to be inconspicuous because his current armor and weapons were making him stand out among the public. His attention was then caught by some more guards shouting at a magic user to stand down. The guards were surrounding the elemental mage girl to get down, while she was trying to explain to them that there might be some misunderstandings. She tried to explain that she was a mage learning at the La Palais Palace, but the guard dismissed her, saying that how could they trust someone who didn't have a magic card? She agreed, saying that she may not have a card, but she had a magical recommendation letter written to her by her master, and reached to pull it out. One guard hit her hand really hard to stop her from putting her hand inside her cloak, with her shrieking from pain. Angered by this action, she pulled out her magic wand to point at the soldiers, saying how dare they. On seeing her holding the weapon in her hand, all of the guards instantly got into super high alert mode, shouting to others that she had lifted her weapon. One of the guards then stabbed her leg from behind with a long spear. Ripping out the spear, they threw her to the ground, shouting for all the other guards to apprehend her. Falling to the ground, she screamed in pain, shouting that it really hurt. Did they really need to stab her? Another guard stepped onto her wand and broke it into pieces, leaving her screaming for it. All the guards then started to kick and thrash her, shouting, "How dare a magic user pull out their weapon?" and kept on kicking her. The young man then came in running from behind, shouting to the guard to please stop kicking her. Stopping their kicks requested them to stop hitting, as she would die at this rate. The guards shouted at him, who was he, and told him to run away. In his mind, he thought that these guards were crazy, but he needed to help her because she was someone who helped him. And using this money like this might be a waste, but in this case, he thought it was okay to do it. He bowed down to the guard, pleading to them that this brat was part of his group. She acted like that because she didn't know the ways of the world. And he apologized, saying that she just made a mistake. Pulling out his purse, he flattered the guards that he was sorry to make them wait like this, and in order to compensate them, he wanted to give something. From within the bag, 3 gold coins clinked out into his hands, each one for one guard. The guards understood what was going on and instantly got interested. Continuing his flattery, he gave the 3 coins into the guard's hand, and the guard also slid them in smoothly, saying that something like this wasn't necessary. After the transaction, he requested the guards for his leave, because he was injured, and he didn't want to keep them waiting any longer. He then told them not to worry about that kid, but one of them was cautious, saying that it was okay because magic users don't let go of their grudges easily. He reassured them that she won't hold any grudges because she was at fault in the first place. He added that she might be stupid, but she knows at least this much. The guards then asked can they could trust him, to which he completely buttered them up to reassure them that they absolutely could, and there was nothing to worry. The guards then turned around, moving on but warning him to make sure she behaves well, then they took their leave. The young man then once more thanked them for the time they spent on them. He then returned his attention to the mage girl who was now still on the floor, unable to get up. Kneeling down, he helped her to stand on her feet, asking whether she could get up or not. She was still groaning in pain. With eyes filled with bloodlust and tears, she promised herself that she will get her revenge with them. Helping her sit on the nearby bench, he told her to rest while they treat her. And he was also going to use a portion from her bag, which was his to begin with anyways. The mage kept on gritting her teeth and grabbing her ponytails, reciting that she will find those guards and kill them, or give them fates even worse than death. The young man then softly bonks her head with his fist, surprising her a bit. Annoyed, she shouted to him. What was he trying to do? He then just asked her to stop acting like an idiot. The mage said that she should have the right to use her rights, her right to get revenge. The young man warned her that he wasn't stopping her revenge, but she should be careful where she was formulating her plans. She should be alone under a blanket. She said grumpily that she didn't mean for him to hear it. He responded that he understood and forwarded her a bottle of the potion. The mage then snatched the bottle away from him. She started to pour it on the top of her wound, saying that this way is more effective compared to her drinking it directly. Getting annoyed by her behavior, he wondered how the hell she can still talk as if she's looking down on others. He thought to himself that if she gets hurt another time, he isn't going to help her. The mage girl also reminded him of his niece Ji-won, which bothered him in various ways. Catching him staring at her again, she spoke up, asking him why does he keep staring at her. Clearly annoyed, he ordered her to listen to him really carefully, what he was about to say. What if he just took everything she had on her right now and handed her over to the guards? What if he goes and tells them that she is an escapee without a magic card, and she keeps talking about revenge, and he was under a magic spell earlier which made him take her side earlier, and in reality he wasn't even a part of her group? He sternly asks her what will happen if he goes and says that to them. The mage drops the glass potion bottle in shock, which shattered upon impact. Scared, she looked at him, asking how did he knew about it. The young man was confused by the unexpected reaction. He thought that maybe he had said something wrong to her. Then he instantly realized what had actually happened just now. This female elemental mage was actually an expelled escapee from the La Palais Palace. He understood that if he messes up from here, he might arouse suspicion of the female mage. He controlled the situation by saying that he was just trying to give an example, and if she kept on grumbling about the revenge, then he might think of cutting her off. She asked what did he meant by cutting her off. He explained that it meant to cut someone off, to let them loose. She kept on asking what did that meant. He diverted the topic to say that he was just warning her to be a bit more careful with her words. Snatching away the bag from him said that that comment was a very slaverish of him and she doesn't need any of that. Still squeamish that her leg was stinging. Kneeling down, he asked her for the other potion bottle she had in her bag, but she said that she was fine now and there was no need for it. But she gave the bottle to him anyway, and he then reminded her of something that she might not have known. He held the bottle and told her that the potion bottle was his. She didn't understand what he was trying to say. He opened the bottle, saying that he saved her, which was worth more than one bottle. He then smiled and told her not to make that face, as if she had been wronged. When a person gets something, they should return something as well. She angrily called him a sly dog. He started to pour the portion on her wound, asking her if she was indebted to him now. Seeing that he took the portion for her and not for himself, she got silent and started to stare. He emptied the entire bottle on her wound, which healed it completely, both staying silent. After her wound was healed, the young man then asked her what her name was. She replied that it was Ellen. She then asked about his. He thought for a second that his gamertag, You Cheater Pose, was not appropriate as a normal name, as it didn't feel right. Even his old name, the Blood Knight, was not appropriate because it was just a default name. He just turns around and tells the mage to call him Ajusi. Confused, the mage asked him just how old he was to be called that. Instead of asking him to call Appa, instantly changed her mind. In a bar, the village tells the young man her story, but he even calls her a leftover human. 19 slams her glass on the table in frustration. Angered, she asked him what did he meant by leftover, but he told her to be quiet because he was really annoyed as well. He was annoyed because she could not use any magic, because her wand, which her teacher gave her, was broken, and apart from that, she could only use the razor wind spell. He was surprised at what kind of mage she was because this was just like being a prop for the wand. He explained to her that a mage isn't just a magician, they uncover the secrets and very foundation of matter as well. What else? She could not even satisfy the basic functions of a mage, her knowledge. At this point, she was like a chef who could not cook, a singer who could not sing, and a doctor who could not treat. He then straight up called her a defective product, a leftover human. But even this behavior, the young man found strangely familiar. It wasn't because she resembled Ji-won, but it was more like 6 months ago, he raised a female elemental mage who resembled her. Her name was IJKL Mage. He also recognized her wand, which was the Westerly Wind Baton. During his previous account gameplays, he made a new mage character the moment he got the wand. All of this info and coincidences made him realize something really important. He realized that the character in front of him was none other than Aikul Maj. She called him up again that why was he staring at her? He was just surprised that the character he created ended up becoming a living being. Who would have that he would be seeing his own character right in front of him? Setting that topic aside, he asked her that why did she come to South Harbor in the first place? She sighed, saying that she had something she needed to do here. Surprised and curious, he asked what she was trying to do. But she refused, saying to mind his own business. But the young man requested her to note this so cold to him. They had saved each other's lives after all. This guaranteed to create a little bit of trust between them. But she coldly replied that it didn't matter. She told him that he did not give him any reason to trust him yet, except for the incident earlier. But the young man clenched his teeth, saying that she cannot just ignore the incident earlier, as it was really important, and why would he try to gain her favor? She responded that how could she know? He then said that he was thinking of adding her to his party. She shouted, who was he to decide that all by himself? He reassured her that he was not going to do as he pleased, and that they were both going to discuss everything to reach an agreement. Sitting back down, she asked, what kind of agreement? He said that he was a really skilled warrior and has a lot of knowledge of this world, so it made a really compelling choice to have someone like him in the same party. Asked her what she thinks about it. She agreed, saying that even though he looked like a jerk, he was a pretty good candidate for a team member. He was annoyed by how annoying she was till the very end. But she started to grumble that she could not even manifest her abilities as a mage, and the wand that her teacher gave to her was broken. The young man started to think that maybe the elemental maze considers the Westerday wind baton as an item that her teacher gave to her. He agreed to it, that yeah, she was now an actual leftover human, which stung her a lot. But instantly, he optimistically reassured her that she won't stay like this forever because she was still growing every day. She looked at him with a confused and pained expression. Mockingly, she said that what would he know about magic? Because she studied magic for over 10 years. Even then, she was not able to make a single flame on her own. He looked aside, agreeing that, yeah, he did not know anything about magic. Elle had started to cry a little bit by this point. Changing the topic, he slammed the table, shouting that she definitely has the potential to become an outstanding mage. He could literally feel it. Looking at the young man with complicated expression with tears in her eyes, she just stayed silent. She then revealed to him that she was here as per her teacher's order in order to find someone. The last traces of that person was discovered in the city north of this port, and she was on her way there. The young man started to think who this person could be that she was looking for. He realized that her target was the spell thief Seich, who may be hiding in the Raven Cliffs right now. So in return, he revealed to her that he was there because he was looking for the origin of his blood. It was a process that he needed to go through to master the art of blood control, for which he needed a party. He wondered whether it was going to be okay that he was just reciting the original plot of the game, since that's what came to his mind first. He asked her again, did she trust him a little bit now or not? Looking down, she agreed, saying that it's okay since they were going to the same place anyway. The young man felt relieved that at least she had started to trust him a little bit now. Agreeing with her, he stood up and extended his hand to her for a handshake. She shook his hand. He assured her that they would try to do their best together. In an inn named the Boathorn Inn, the young man sighed about something really crazy. He was angry that after paying such a ridiculous amount of money for the inn, there was absolutely no bed and it reeked of a disgusting smell. It actually looked more like a horse stable rather than an inn. The mage pushed him aside to move over and to stop acting like so hygienic. She said that she was tired and she was going to sleep first. The young man asked her again, that was she going to sleep in a place like this? She agreed, saying that she will, and not to disturb her. He sighed, giving up and saying that nothing can be done anyways after all. He opened up his weapons and holsters and kept it aside to him, in the inn. Looking towards the ceiling, he started to miss his home, but wondered what he could do in order to get back. He remembered something. The trickster said that it was some sort of hidden. Did he actually meant that the hidden quest was completing the campaign in real life? He wondered who the trickster was. Was he some sort of god or being? After all the useless thoughts inside his head, his eyes started to get a little bit heavy. His eye is completely closed up and he went to sleep. Some sort of blue light instantly woke him up. The young man was now in his old body, in a completely white space. He frantically started to look around, trying to find that where was he? A blue hologram instantly popped up in front of him. Looking at it, he realized what it was. The hologram was his character sheet from the Dark World. The scene cut to the next day morning sun. The young man woke up yawning loudly, saying that he slept really well. The man wondered how did he felt so refreshed. He felt as if his brain came directly out of a washing machine and his body felt so light that he could fly. He wondered whether this was also due to his class of being a blood knight, because he was definitely hurt last day and lost quite a blood as well. He started to suit up thinking that this body was exceptionally healthy. The mage also started to wake up. He mocked her, saying that she must be able to sleep well in a place like this because of her constitution. She looked at him, still yawning and half asleep. That why was he trying to pick a fight early in the morning? What a terrible hobby he has. He corrected her, saying that it was not morning because the sun was already high up in the sky, but she angrily asked him why did he keep being sarcastic. Although she agreed to join his party, they were still not close enough to joke around. Her stomach grumbled, interrupting both of them. Her face turned red in shame, whereas he just kept looking at her silently. The young man felt a little bit guilty and sighed, saying that they should eat first. He poured his spoon into a bowl filled with white porridge. He asked repeatedly whether something had changed about her. She refused, saying that no matter how many times he asked, the answer would be the same. He thought it was really strange because there was definitely something different. Because in his dream yesterday, he saw the Dark World character sheet. There were 2 tabs and the first tab was his sheet and then the second tab was her sheet. And since it was possible to distribute his skill points among both, He took a look at all of the points he had and distributed all among both of them. Using the character sheet, he strengthened his passive skill, the flowing blood, and increased his health by 2. So his final stat was Strength Daria, Agility 16, Health 18, and Magic Power 1. Whereas for her, he invested 3 points into Flame Arrow, 1 point into Burning Weapon, and 3 points into Cold Air Spray, and 3 points into Wind Fist, and 1 point into Spirit of Dance. So for the rest of her stat, he brought her Strength to 10, Agility to 13, Health to 15, and Magic Power to 23. Since he distributed all of the points, without leaving a single thing, he expected there to be a really big change in her. But she said nothing had changed. He was worried that why was the no change in her? Was the dream he saw last night was just a random dream? She again called him out for staring at her. For the last time, he told her that she has to say him anything if something has changed. She said she understood and asked him to shut up and eat. Her behavior annoyed the young man very much, and washing his clothes, he put them out under the sun to dry. Besides that clothesline, the young man was doing his workout. One-arm push-ups. He was surprised at his body's resiliency because even though he was wearing his heavy armor, he was easily able to do 1 Daria push-ups in 1 minute. He was worried about the mage because she was an extra who could not do anything. So he called her out to exercise, but he was surprised that she was going to meditate. He set her aside. He walked into the inn thinking that he was not her parent, and that she could acquire the skills he gave her by maybe meditating. When he walked in, he realized that somebody was there already inside. A red-haired girl innkeeper asked them whether they were the customers who arrived yesterday and wondered why they were sweating the first thing in the morning. The young man answered that he did it because he felt refreshed and good. She then laughed at him for being a weird one. He also laughed back, saying that he heard this pretty often and asked what her name was. She said that her name was Daria. She greeted him with a warm smile, saying that it was nice to meet him. Looking at such a pretty lady, the young man started to blush. Asking her could he inquire about something, he asked Daria that who attacked the city. She said that the city was actually not under attack right now, which was a bit ambiguous. She added that the bandits attacked a fortnight ago and they were right now hiding in the reeds. And same with the pirates. They have been just attacking and plundering anyone who were coming and going. He then asked whether the bandits and the pirates were on the same side. Daria affirmed him. He asked next whether they were trying to starve the city to death, but she refused, saying that this might not be the case because there were a lot of reserved goods, so they might be okay for a long while. The young man realized that, just like in The Dark World Chapter 2, they were planning to pulverize the crisis that will fall upon the South Harbor and loot everything. He realized in order to survive, he needed to do something about it. Daria asked the young man whether he was okay because his complexion was starting to look a little bit pale, but he reassured her that he was okay. He was just hot, and he asked if he could use the well outside. Daria agreed with him with a bright big smile. She said since her father was not there, she will just allow him to use it. The young man then used the well to take a bath, washing himself clean. The maze girl instantly popped out from his behind, asking him whether he was done talking with Daria. The young man instantly got scared because of her. The mage girl asks why he got so shocked because of her. The young man shouted back, saying that anybody will be shocked if someone suddenly popped out behind them. She mocked him, saying that was he trying to have a fantasy with the barmaid Bix or something. Annoyed, he asked her who the hell was the barmaid maid Bix. She mocked him, saying that he knew who she was. He then asks her to stop picking a fight. He thought that she was meditating right now. He asked, why did she came out? She said that she meditates at all times. Nothing has changed. She then got worried about her saying that a person needs to improve by working consistency. She was way too young to be getting lazy. She added that if anyone could get better by working consistently, then there would not be any non-magic users in the world. He agreed with her, thinking that if she practiced at the La Palais Palace, then she must have meditated till she died of boredom. But she felt something was different today. Although it might be just that her spiritual senses was simulated because she was in an unfamiliar environment. He disappointedly agreed and turned around. The moment she saw his body, she started to scream. She covered her mouth and started to scream at him that he was a pervert. And to go away, he thought that he did something wrong. He didn't understand because she was completely fine when she saw his back. She was suddenly like this. She grabbed both of her ponytails and started to run away. Confused, he called out to her. He thought it was not like his pants were off. He wondered why she acted like this. Was he smelling a lot? Still confused, he walked into the inn to ask something to the barmaid. He asked the barmaid whether there was some kind of a general goods store or a blacksmith nearby from the inn. When she asked why, he answered that because he wanted to buy some things that he needed. After thinking for a little bit, she remembered that there was a general goods store nearby. The store was next to the post office, and it was called Oreg's General Goods Store. But she warned that the old man who runs it had kind of an eccentric personality. He was worried that there were a lot of differences between the game and reality, but it seems that this store is the same, and he needed it because it had the perfect item for the situation. The young man then walks to the Oreg's General Goods Store. Opening the door, the he covered his. Rose because he was overwhelmed by the strong smell of the herbs. The mage said that they definitely used magical ingredients, so she was correct to come to this place. An old man in a cloak walked out of the corner, asking them who they were. The young man asked him whether he was Oreg. He explained himself that he had come to the shop because he was looking for something. Judging from their appearance, the old man guessed that he was a soldier. He instantly opened his cloak and shouted to him that he has 3 flaming wood gas explosion orbs strapped onto him. He warned that if any one of them did anything weird, then the whole area would be destroyed by him. The young man realized that this old man was way worse than what Daria had said. He was not just eccentric, he was completely crazy. Next scene cuts to a flashback about an hour ago. The young man was knocking on the door of the mage, entering the door. He told the mage that he just wanted to talk with her. She was completely surprised. Without answering anything, she just huddled herself into her corner. He just looked at her and sighed. He went and apologized to her about earlier. He said that he did not know why she was acting like this, maybe because he did something, because he was not familiar with the culture of this place very well. She looked at him and shouted that, is this what he is going to use as an excuse for his behavior earlier? She backed down, saying that he must be correct since he did not even know about their currency system. She explained that her kind do not expose their chest to the other gender until after marriage. While walking out of the room, she told him to be careful from now on. He took a sigh of relief because he just thought that their relationship was over. With both of them sitting in the canteen, she asked him what he was trying to say to her. He had called her in order to talk about the plan. Firstly, he asked her to take all of her money out that she had on her. Grabbing and hiding her money purse, she told him that she did not want to. Slamming his hands on the table, shouted to her, why was she doubting him now? He spent an entire 5 whole silver coins to save her, and she was thinking that he was going to fool her. She asked him to calm down because it wasn't even that much amount of money. She pulled out around 8 silver coins out of the purse and put it on the table. He asked once more whether this was all the amount of money she had. She angrily said yes. He started lecturing that how she was saying him that 5 coins were not enough. What was she trying to do, come to another country with just 8 coins on her? The first part of the plan was they were going down to sewer and earning money through the castle's owner mission. Then they will find a way out through the sewers as well. The beach thought that this was a brilliant idea because there were a lot of cities where the sewers were used as secret passageways. He told her to get ready in order to get the entire layout of the sewers, and that was what they needed the money for. He again started to lecturing her that they did not have the money to buy the equipment they needed, nor that she can use the magic or sword, and she was yelling at him for facing over a little bit amount of money. He mocked her, saying, where did her audacity come from? The mage girl was silent and just bowed his head to look at the ground without being able to say a single word. Thinking that he might have gone a little bit too far, he asked her, what happened? What was she doing? The mage girl was actually crying. On seeing this, she shouted to the young man to shut up while calling him an idiot. He felt really guilty for the way he acted and thought that he needed to change and act his age. Worried and confused, he said, sorry, and asked whether he should order some food for her. Wiping her tears, she said that she got the plan but asked that what he was going to do with the money. He said that he will buy what they needed first. Looking at the list of things he needed to buy, she got worried that how are they going to carry all of that? Thinking that he might have overdone it, he also offered to reduce some of the items. Looking back at it, he never realized just how cool this character always was. Now, back to the present, the old man had warned them not to even think about doing anything. But after a while, the old man asked him what he was here to buy. He said that he needed a lantern and some of the things. Here's time whether both of them were going to the young man agreed with him, picking out a bullseye lantern. He gave it to the young man, saying that it should be able to light up the walls of the sewers. He agreed to purchase it. For the other things he bought, refill oil, a torch, a map till the second level. He didn't need one for the first level because there will be guards. He warned him not to go deeper than the third floor because it might get dangerous. He also told them to go to the Drunken Pony Tavern for food because they sell stuff like biscuits there. The shopkeeper asked whether they needed any kind of medicine, but the young man said that he needed some portion. He said that he did not had any because he was not an alchemist. He then asked what kind of medicine he had. The shopkeeper answered that he had the poison-tipped arrow antidote. He also had one that was an antidote for most paralytic poisons. He might come across a burying beetle, so he also had some nerve person antidotes too. The shopkeeper then looks towards the girl, asking whether she was a mage. She rudely denies him, saying that it was none of his business. The shopkeeper doesn't say anything and just calmly observes her. He then calculates the cost of all the items and bills it for 4 silver coins. The young man was surprised that why was this so expensive. He then tells him that the prices of everything has increased because all of the trade routes were shut down. He refused to do any negotiation. Told him whether to buy or to get out. The young man was stuck in a bind, unsure to what to do now. While thinking on what to do next, the mage girl said from behind just to pay, because they had no choice. But looking towards the shopkeeper, she warned him that if he was trying to rip them off, then it won't take her long to burn down the entire shop because there were a lot of good items to loot here. Mocking him back, the shopkeeper said that she must not know what an explosion or this. Both of them continued to bicker. The young man tried to stop the fight between them. Looking at her, the shopkeeper was in a bind. Thinking that her robe was actually a magical equipment, she invited him to test her if he was curious. She kept on confronting him, asking him to test her if he was afraid. The young man again tried to control her by telling her to watch her mouth. The young man remembered that Eichel Mage character's robe was at least a rare rank. Maybe it was unique. He could not remember. He realized that this was the reason she was so confidently arguing with him. The shopkeeper then silently backed down without arguing anymore. Sighing, he reduced the prices to 3 coins. It was a bit more expensive than the market price, but he told to think of it as his payment for his service. He commented on how bad his business was lately. With a complicated emotion, the young man agreed with Oreg. He said that how information about a foreign location is always important. The shopkeeper thanked him for understanding. As a last service, he told them that if he found some things in the Seamers, he was ready to buy them off him for a hefty price. Holding the items, both of them walked out of the shop. A bit later, he punched her head softly as a punishment, but she shouted that it hurt. He angrily lectured her that did she knew what pain felt like. She shouted, "What did she do now?" He kept on pinching her cheeks, saying that what was this attitude she was using? She shouted him to let her go. He said he would, but she needed to explain what her robe was actually. Slapping his hand over with tears in her eyes, she said that her robe was flame-resistant. He understood that this was why she was so confident in front of the shopkeeper. He lectured her, saying that what would have happened if the shopkeeper had actually set off the orb? He would have died. He asked her whether she cared only this much about her comrades. He was super angry that she just gambled his life without discussing it with him beforehand, just because she wanted to save money, even if they both survived to blast. The shopkeeper could have hired people to get his revenge. So he finally told her to not let something like that happen again and to not unnecessarily risk their lives. Quietly, she says, "Okay," and asks him to stop because she gets it. Now that they had their equipment with them, the young man prompted them to start going. But suddenly they were interrupted by a large bell. 2 guards were standing on top of the lookout tower and ringing the large bell. The mage pointing towards somewhere asks the young man to look over there. From over the horizon, a group of pirates were steadily approaching the Southport harbor. He instantly grabs the mage's hand, shouting for her to run somewhere. The mage, confused, shouted back, where was he taking her? He said that both of them were going to the tower. Upon reaching the tower, he saw a large hustle and movement of soldiers. All of the soldiers were heading for the wharf. Suddenly, someone called out to them from behind. From over the barricade, a large, tall man holding a big axe looked down at them. The man asked them whether both of them were mercenary soldiers. Annoyed by no response, the high-level soldier asked both of them again whether they were mercenary soldiers or not. The young man first stammered but caught himself, saying that yes, he was a mercenary soldier. The soldier then pointed towards the girl, asking whether she was also one or not because she had dressed like a mage. She was about to shout that she was from the LA Palazzi, but the young man interrupted her, closed her mouth, saying to them that she was actually her niece. While keeping her mouth closed, he told the soldier that she was too young to use magic because she was still a student. The soldier understood. Another foot soldier called out to him, "Constable," saying that he has to get going right now. The young man understood what the position of this man was. The constable then said to the both of them that the Lord had put a mobilization order, so he asked both of them to follow them, and they might be imprisoned if they disobey. He agreed to her, but he requested that he would first send his niece to the tower first before going with them. But the constable shouted at him to come this instance, because she was not even a child and she could have run away on her own. The constable then looked at the progress of his foot soldiers. The young man then released the mage's mouth. She started shouting that she was not a student, but she was an independent grown, only to be interrupted by him, who showed her the sign to be quiet. After she was quiet, he told that he thinks she is an independent mage and that she will be the greatest mage of the middle world. But as of right now, she could not even perform as a mage, because she could not even cast a spell on her own. The constable then shouts for the final time, how long was he going to wait? If he waits any longer, then he's going to arrest him. The young man was annoyed at how impatient this constable was. He then shoves the bag full of items onto the mage girl. He orders her that her mission now was to protect those things. They got these cheap because of her, and he wanted her to hold on to them so that they don't lose them now. She was trying to follow him, but then he shouts at her to hurry to the tower. She stops in her tracks just left, looking at him. The young man and all of the other soldiers accumulated at the front gate of the harbor. But then he saw something really disturbing about the wharf soldiers. All of the soldiers who went to fight the pirates were all already dead. Up until this point, the young man was very optimistic about the situation until he got to the wharf. All of the South Harbor soldiers were well equipped and trained, and their command systems also was pretty solid. Except for 5 to 6 people who were dressed as mages, there were more than 60 people who had come for support. He thought that it was going to be as easy as the pirates from a few days ago on the deck. But reality was completely different from his expectations. It was because unlike those pirates on the boat, these pirates were really experienced ones. The constable shouted the militia to move forward. The young man was worried. After all, they made him stand in the first row because they counted his buckler as a shield. But the buckler was not a shield, because all it could do, was just cover one shoulder. This was a really unfortunate situation for him. A bunch of arrows started to fly from the militia side to the pirate side. After getting hit, a bunch of pirates also started to fire back their own shots too. The young man was absolutely shocked to see the militia using crossbows, because crossbows could also hurt their own soldiers as well. Instantly, one of the pirates' crossbow killed one of the militia soldiers who was standing just beside him. The young man just saw a human being getting killed in front of him. The only thing running in his mind was that he might actually die. Just as he said that, a crossbow hit him on his breastplate and pounced off, knocking him out. Falling, he started to cough loudly, realizing that he had just almost died. A man holding a large shield in front of him asked whether he was okay or not. Catching his breath, he replied back, saying that he was all right. Seeing that this man was protecting him, he thought that he was some kind of angel. The man chuckled, saying that he must be good with sword, so he asked him to watch his back for him. The young man agreed. But he was worried that seeing his weapon and his physical abilities, he must have mistakenly thought that he was pretty strong. But regardless of how the other man was thinking of him, he was in near panic mode right now. He was already really upset that he had to be there against his own will. But now, he also had to fight against those monsters. They looked really bloodthirsty, like beasts. He was sure that he could never win against them. Maybe he could have risked it if it was a game, but in actual life, he was not going to give this any chance. Just as he was about to start panicking and trying to run away, someone hit his back of his head to bring him back to his senses. A lady said to him that was he that scared that he could not see his surroundings. The young man angrily shouted, "What was it?" The lady also shouted back to him to look in front of him. 2 arrows from an enemy crossbow came flying and fell at his legs. The young man angrily shouted that arrows were flying at him, and she was asking him to turn around. She calmly told him that she was going to charge forward with her colleagues, and she wanted him to watch her back. Not understanding what she was saying, he shouted that, what the heck was she even talking about? But he was interrupted by the constable, who shouted all of the militia to charge ahead. At the moment's notice, the lady and her entire group charged ahead while shouting attack and to kill them. Looking at them, he was surprised. Shouting, What the hell were they doing? But the constable shouted at him to charge again. The constable gave the young man a really large slap, shouting at him once more to charge forward while calling him a coward. He turned his anger towards the constable, who has been treating him like trash since a long time. He kicked him with all his power right in the chest, knocking him out. The 2 foot soldiers then started to point their weapons at him, shouting that was he out of his mind, and to drop his weapons. The young man sighed, feeling a little bit relieved because he realized that he was not Kim Seung-soo, but Phoenix right now. 1 foot soldier charged his spear towards him, shouting at him to drop his weapon while cussing him. But with one swift motion, he instantly parried the attack, diverting it. While the other foot soldiers were starting to attack him, he shouted out to them to stop. He explained that the attack back then just self-defense. Anyone would be mad if they got slapped in the face out of nowhere. They were planning on shouting back, but he cut them short, saying that he was going to charge into the battle right now. He explained to the confused soldiers that he was going to charge into the battle right now. Since he did not disobey, he wanted those guys to be his witnesses. Getting back on his feet, the constable cursed at him to be a dirty mercenary, but he could not say anything because he knew that he was pretty strong. So in compensation, he needed to kill 20 for them to forgive him. Surprised at the number of pirates he had to kill, he asked again in surprise. Knowing his objective now, he started to run towards the battlefield, telling the constable to keep his part of the promise. He first thought that he made a mistake the moment he threw that punch, but it was one of the best choices he made because he also got a bit of confidence from it as well. Using his sword, he cut a tiny cut on his palm to make him bleed. Using his blood to envelope his sword, he made it into a blade of blood. In one swift motion, he started to kill all 20 of the pirates one by one. He chopped off the leader of the pirates right through his middle, splitting him into 2. The shield mercenary saw the young man standing beside him. He started to laugh gleefully that the young man was finally here. But the young man was drowned in his power, thinking that because of his blood on him, his body was feeling really hot, and he was feeling a thirst of dominating his body. The shield mercenary started to get a little bit worried about his demeanor, even though mercenary leader also got a little bit worried. The blood-red aura surrounding him started to spread everywhere. He started to smirk, saying that this power was getting more intense. The mercenary leader killed 2 of the pirates with just one swift motion to their necks. The young man got worried that they were all stealing his kills. The big, burly pirate picked up his large axe and prepared to swing it on the mercenary leader. But then she shouted all of his members to huddle together, with the shield mercenary in the front. The shield mercenary took the full blood of the axe, absorbing the impact completely. The leader jumped up from one of the members' shield towards the pirate whose axe was still stuck in the shield. Then she kicked his helmet, turning it around, removing his vision completely. With a clean cut from his sword to his neck, she instantly kills him. She stands victorious on the top of the pirate's body. The young man looked at it in awe, realizing that this is how it was supposed to be done. Then suddenly, another pirate swings his sword while running towards him, shouting for him to die. Kicking this sword away, he instantly disarms the pirate. With just the sheer force, he gets thrown away, shouting at how this kid is so strong. He runs toward the pirate, who fell down angry to not let others steal his kills. He stabs his sword right into the pirate's chest, killing the 4th one. 2 pirates in front of him got scared seeing his strength. Using his blood mist-covered sword, he punched through another pirate, making it the number 5. All of them started to shout to each other to surround this psychopath. When's killing the 6th pirate? He thought to himself, that unlike the mercenary leader earlier, he has no combat experience or techniques. The young man groaned that he had no experience or no skills like that of the mercenary leader. He was just attacking however he could just to fill that kill count. He swipes his blade vigorously across the air, releasing a large burst of blood mist aura. With a roaring scream, he shouts at all of the pirate to come at him, but all of them just ran scared for their lives, shouting that he was just a monster, and no human could fight someone like that. Without a single shred of mercy, the young man swipes his blade through the air, chopping off one of the pirate's neck, decapitating him. All of the South Paul Harbor's mercenary and knights and soldiers just stood and looked at him in horror. The constable among the guards was the one who was scared the most, thinking what the hell was that? This guy was way too scary and violent to be called a birth of a new hero. After the battle was over, all of the soldiers and mercenaries returned back to their own places and positions. The young man asked the head knight where the constable might be right now. He said that he had made some kind of promise with the constable earlier that day. The head knight asked what kind of promise it was. He said that earlier that day he had made some kind of mistake, and in order to be forgiven, he had to kill 20 of these pirates. He showed one of the bodies to the head knight, which absolutely shocked him. The head knight in a fearful voice said that it didn't matter what kind of mistake he made, but the achievement he got, he needed to be receiving a reward for. Giving him a sack of coins, the head knight told him that this was his reward. He will let the Lord know about his deeds when he comes back. The head knight then asked the young man for his name and residence, so that one of the Lord's messengers will come to give him his reward at his home. He said that his name was Phoenix, and he lived at the Boat Horn Inn. In the next scene, it was the young man's previous room, where somebody was cussing that what an insane character this was. The young man in his previous body was shouting that what was wrong with the game. Why were the characters moving on their own? Upon seeing a close-up shot of the young man's face during his blood mist form, this man scared, he shouted that, "Who was this guy? Was there any character like this in the game?" A drop of blood started to fall on the floor. Not understanding, he asked, "What was this?" A mirage of the Blood Knight formed behind the young man. He understood that this scary character was none other than him. After that, all of the young man's alternate characters started to appear in his mind one by one. Among them, one was a vice president, one was a thief, and one was a red Indian. And finally, it was the elemental mage and himself, the Blood Knight. The young man with a screeching grasp woke up in his inn's bed. Grabbing his head, he screamed that what the heck was that? He felt as if he dreamed something really big, but he was not able to remember anything of it. Later, the young man learned that this war, the battle at the beach, was a great success thanks to him. To break the naval blockade, the Lord joined a fleet to participate in the war. It also included civilian ships as well. But this war was completely unsuccessful because most of the South Harbor's fleet died, and the pirates' blockade still went on going strong. This turned the city's atmosphere much worse than before. The shield mercenary who was sleeping beside him also woke up. He asked the young man that was he already up. He replied that the shield mercenary should sleep a little bit more because he still reeked a lot of alcohol. It was introduced to us that this alcoholic shield mercenary's name was Gelius. He was the one who protected the young man using his shield. The young man asked him that how was he so lively when he managed to recover from his injury so recently. Annoyed, Gelius called the young man a rude little bastard, but smilingly he said good morning to him and bid him goodbye as he had to do morning training. The young man went out of the room and closed the door behind him. The elemental mage also came into the room while still yawning, saying good morning to him. The young man was surprised at how early she was able to wake up. Worried about her appearance, the young man asked her whether she was okay or not. She looked as if she could fall down at any moment, but then she assured him that she was fine and that she felt much better than she looked. The mage had been meditating all week. He felt as if she was feeling guilty that she was unable to participate and help out in the Battle of the Wharf. Looking at him, she answered that she worked so hard because of the sewers. Told him not to worry because she was going to sleep on it that day. But he answered that it was not the problem. What if she got sick due to this? Annoyed, the mage told the young man that instead of lecturing her, he should go train instead because Grania was almost ready. He said, "All right then." But while he was going to the grounds, he turned around and asked her again, that was she sure that she was feeling okay? Annoyed, she shouted at him to not take her lightly. He moved on forward, realizing that she was all right. Outside of the end in the training grounds, we could hear the young man doing his training with someone. While fighting her, he started to introduce about her. That while getting closer to Mr. Gelius, the shield mercenary, he naturally became closer to the mercenary group that he was in. The group's leader, the woman who was teaching him right now, her name was called Grania. She was a mercenary soldier. It has been 5 days already since she started to teach him. The young man then swiped his wooden sword at her feet, throwing off her footing. With the force of the swipe, she got thrown away a little bit far behind. For the first time, he was able to defeat her. While down, Grania groaned that she had lost. Pointing towards the young man, she asked him whether he was sure that this was the first time him learning. While helping her up, he started to praise her that he was only able to do this because she was so great at teaching. She got impressed at how smooth he was with his words. Going to train again with her that evening because she was tired and that they will be going to the sewers the next day. He said that he won't because he has his rest day today. He will practice on his own for a while. She reminded him that he needed to pick something up really soon. Confused, he asked what was she talking about. She said his brand new shield, the one he requested last time. Grania reminded him that he requested a shield to be crafted for him as a reward for the Battle of the Wharf. She said she was not surprised because he got so much money that he could change his gear this time while seeing him off. The young man thanked her for sparring with him. After coming near one of the wells while washing his face, someone suddenly called out to him. It was the mage who shouted out to him, asking him if he was going to visit the workshop later. He asked her that was she not going to meditate? She said that she was unable to focus, that's why she was asking to come with him. South Harbor, the Lord's workshop. It was a facility that even the residents of the citizens cannot use. So, a mercenary like the young man was out of the question. Like its name suggested, it belonged to the Lord and it was seen as the South Harbor's arsenal. Despite that, the reason he was able to get his shield crafted there was because of his active role in the part of the militia in the recent battle. Since they did not have the means to export the gear due to the destruction of the fleet, they agreed to let him have it. The young man sighed to the image, saying that was he some kind of workshop entry ticket for her? Because there must be some reason for her to come with him like this. Without answering his question, she just requested once more to allow him to let go with him. But he refused, saying that he was the only one who fought in the battle, so that if she gets there to buy something, the guards will pick a fight with her. Shyly looking to the ground, she asked that what if she bought something small like a ballista? The young man corrected her that ballista, which means a small crossbow. Shouting back in anger, she said that no, ballista and crossbow both are different. She wanted ballista. Calming her down, he said, okay, whichever it is, why did she wanted that out of the blue? Again with a shy voice, she says that she is like a fifth wheel without contributing to anything. That's why she wanted some weapons, so that she could contribute her fair share as well. But she wanted a ballista because she was unable to use any other weapons. The young man was admired at her trying to do her fair share. But with a slight mocking voice, he asked her that did she even have enough capital to buy this because a catapult must be really expensive. And he also reminded her that he did not really like borrowing or lending money anyone in the family. But he gave her another option that with suitable collateral and interest, he could lend her some, but she refused, calling him a fool. He said okay, but was very worried that he might have done something wrong. He told her to wait for him a bit. He will get ready to get his gear and clothes. Suddenly, Gilliard interrupted both of them, suddenly declaring that he was also going with them as well. He got worried at another person joining them, asking them was he also coming as well, but the mage just kept quiet and stared at him. In the middle of the town square, all three of them were walking towards the workshop. Gilead gave a really loud yawn, saying that this hangover won't go no matter what he does. He then commented on his shield, saying that no matter how many times he thinks about it, it looks like a mistake his order. Because regardless of how strong he was, he bet that it won't be easy to handle if they try to make it as per his orders. The young man responded that for him, just something robust would be much, much better than something light. Gilead added that a shield simply needs to block a few arrows. What more a person can want from it? He said that it was not like that the young man was going to fight a giant or something. In that case, carrying lighter shields was much better idea than carrying a single, robust one. But you argued back saying that if he was going to spend so much money on it, wasn't it better to get something robust? The young man thought that Gilead was not wrong, but in the future they need to fight non-human monsters, and he could not risk his life on light, weak shields. Turning his attention towards the mage, he asked that, did she have any kind of experience with a ballista before? She just stayed silent without answering him anything. Seeing her reaction, the young man got annoyed and lectured her to answer a question that she was asked. But she refused, saying that she doesn't want to talk. It's annoying. Coming close to her, the whispering, he asked that what was her problem. She angrily said, that was he trying to act innocent? They did not know that mercenaries were just all thieves, just petty robbers. And it was wiser to dodge the stray dogs. Annoyed, he said that they were mercenaries as well, so it applies to them as well. While sighing, she said to him to not say such a spine-chilling joke because she was a mage by nature, not a mercenary. He then asked, what about him? She started to shy and said that she stayed with him because of his favor to her. Confused, the young man thought that was she trying to do him a favor by trying to make an exception for him. Because if so, then she was really arrogant. Gilead was standing there listening to both of them quietly with a complicated expression. The three kept on walking. After some time, they reached to the Lord's workshop. All three entered the workshop. Apprentice, standing near the door, called out to them, welcoming them as Mr. Phoenix and Mr. Gilius. The apprentice then exclaimed that he was just waiting for them. The young man then asked him, that was the shield ready? He answered it was. and he said that he will bring it right away. The apprentice made the young man hold the shield. While picking it up, he said that it was really heavy, which was affirmed by the apprentice once more. He added that the weight was made to match according to the order of the young man, but he added his own opinion that it really felt very heavy. But the young man assured him that this weight was absolutely perfect for him. The apprentice then started to explain how the shield was made. They used a wooden board that was marinated for a week in a solution of cow urine and a demon flesh, and the inner side of the tanned cow hide and the outer side was covered with the dragon skin, which was baked in a brazier. The young man was confused as how they were able to make this when he had ordered this just 5 days ago. He answered that they had it at the workshop already. After all, they used the same materials for the shield made for the loyal guards. The young man remembered that he was talking about the NPCs that were by the Lord's side in the game. Really happy by the results, he paid the apprentice the full amount. The apprentice smiled and thanked him for his generosity. The mage called out to him from behind to not forget about her because she also needed to buy a ballista. The young man was sorry that he forgot about her. Hearing them, the apprentice answered that they don't sell ballistars. Confused, the young man asked that why this was the case. The apprentice corrected him by saying that it's not like they do not sell, it's just that they cannot sell because they were bound by the kingdom's law. The apprentice offered a substitute by pointing to a crossbow on one of his shelves. He agreed that it cannot be an exact copy, but it will work out for her. Giving it in the hand of the mage, the apprentice said that it was originally designed for the lord's wife to use in the birds hunting. He pointed out that this crossbow, instead of shooting bolts, it shot out coal or iron rings. The mage was extremely happy at seeing this weapon. He added that although this one had a slower loading time, it was easier to learn compared to a novel crossbow. Pointing towards one of the trees, the mage shot the crossbow, shooting out a piece of coal. The coal absolutely obliterated the bark of the tree, leaving behind nothing. Absolutely proud of her amazing shot, she turned around and shouted at everyone to see how amazing she was. Both of them were happy at how excited she was. The young man was absolutely surprised at how powerful this crossbow was. Since the apprentice told that it was used for the lord's wife as a hobby, he thought that it was just a fancy toy, but its strength was strong enough to damage even the ratman in the sewers. While twisting his mustache, Gilead asked the young man that the young lady could not even use any kind of magic. So why was he trying to take her as a comrade with him? Gilead gave an idea that she might be some kind of a noble lady, but the young man refused, saying that he did not know. But given how much he knew about her, it seemed unlikely. He then nosily started to ask, then was he in a romantic kind of relationship with the mage, which shocked him a little bit. The young man then tried to fight back a little by saying that what the hell was he even talking about? She was just a little kid, a child. But he commented that she was not, she was all grown up. At this age, she could even get married. Then looking at her, he asked the young man, did he want to join the gang by any chance? The young man instantly fell into a deep thought. Because this was a character which he had seen so many times. He even sounded the same. Then why the hell did it suddenly irk him so much? Jillian then added that the world was too dangerous a place for him to take around a young lady who could not even do anything. Quietly, with a calm, full tone, he called out to Jillian. He then looked to him. Enraged and surrounded by his blood-red aura, he told Jillian to stay in his limits because his words were starting to sound a little bit too strange. Enraged, Jillian also shouted back that, just what did he say, calling him a punk? And what part of his word was so wrong? But he just didn't say anything and kept on releasing his blood-red aura. Jillian coughed back, saying that he must have been too nosy, and asked for forgiveness. The mage then called out to them. She called out to him, asking him to help her gather a few more stones because she wanted to practice a bit more. He said that she can take it a little bit slow and do it back at the inn because it was going to be dinner time soon. But she argued that she needed to get used to it as soon as possible, and again asked him to find some stones. He reluctantly agreed while Jillian was staring at them with malicious intent from behind. The scene cuts to the next day at the inn. The young man was scratching his head because unfortunately they could not explore the sewers the previous evening because their wand support, who was the elemental mage, went and got sick with a fever. Looking at her, he sighed because he could understand the reason for her fever after all. Because the moment she came into this country, the wand her master gave to her was destroyed, and then she was stabbed in the thigh with a spear. After that, she was trampled on by military boots. Along with that, she also had inner struggle after feeling powerless from not being able to use magic. And due to the guilt, she continuously meditated without being able to sleep properly. He twisted a wet cloth filled with water and placed it on the top of her forehead on her temple. While wiping her forehead with the wet cloth, he asked, "That was it feeling too cold?" She refused, saying that it felt cool. Looking after her like this, he got reminded of the time he caught a cold during his military service. After he just got promoted to the private first class, he got sick with a cold. He remembered that he had to do guerrilla training, and after returning from it, they had to do a march next. After that, he felt very miserable and was sick in bed. The person who took care of him was his squad commander, Sergeant Moon. He stopped his colleagues who said that they would nurse him and even brought a no-one-like-him vegetable egg stew from the military PX. At that time, he thought that he could even give up his life for a person like Sergeant Moon. But he was also conflicted that if he put his care onto her like his sergeant did, then he was worried that this little kid would put her life on the line for him. But he collected himself back and called himself a complete idiot for even thinking something like that. The mage woke up and asked him what he was saying. He refused to her that it was nothing to worry about and asked her that if she was feeling hungry. She also refused, saying that she was okay. While looking at him weakly, she asked him why was he going so far for her? Why was he doing this for her? He answered that he was doing this for her because they were comrades. But she got confused because it wasn't even 10 days since they have both met. Pulling her hand out of his hand, she asked that did he think she was a noble or something? Turning her head aside, she said that if he was doing this because he wanted to get his fate restored by getting the help of a noble lady, then she was sorry because she was not a noble lady. Slightly annoyed, the young man asked her that how could she say something like that? But she slowly answered that the person who raised her died because of her. She does not have a home, money, or any family. And even though she practiced for 10 years, she still could not use magic. While tearing up, she said that, just like he said to her before, she was just a human leftover. The young man could not say anything and just kept looking at her. She then told her that she was going to sleep. Both of them went quiet while the young man was just looking at her. A lady in a nun's outfit came inside the room and asked the young man that how was the mage girl doing. He was confused as to who this was. It was introduced to us then that this lady was Sister Olga, who was a cleric and of the Grania mercenary corps. She said that she was unable to obtain herbs because the city was blocked off. He said that it was okay because he was already thankful enough that she stepped in as it was. But then he apologized to her because he was asking to make another request. He requested to her that could she take care of her for a little bit while he went to a general goods store. She readily agreed, saying that she was planning on doing that anyways. Strapping on his shield, he got ready to walk out. The sister bid him farewell and wished him a good trip. While going down the stairs, the barsmaid asked him that how was Ellen doing? He answered that Sister Olga was taking care of her a bit. She then again asked him that where was he trying to go now? He said that he was going to the Oreg's general goods store in order to buy some medicine for her fever. Knowing where he was going, she understood that he was going to pass by the post office. And right now, in front of the post office, under the Lord's command, the residents were getting a free meal at the granary. So she asked him to also take her on the way there. He was surprised that she was asking for him to accompany her. She said that since the city was a bit dangerous now, she did not like traveling outside by herself alone. He had a little bit of a look of hesitation, but after thinking for a little while, he agreed to go with her together. The barmaid got absolutely happy that he agreed and suggested to go out right now. A little kid woke up to ask her that where was she going? She told him that she was going to get some rations. Confused, he asked that why did she need to go because the landlord was going to get it a bit later. She said to not worry about it, to go and take care of the bar for a bit. While looking at him, she requested him to not say anything to the landlord about where they were trying to go. He got extremely confused as to what was happening. And then he shouted in front of the entire inn that what the heck was this? Both of them reached in front of the Oreg's general goods store. While he was carrying some of the rations from the post office, she asked that it might be too heavy for him should she carry one. He refused, saying that it was okay, instead asked her to go deal with Oreg himself because he was a little bit awkward with him. A little bit annoyed, she said okay, and then recited the things that the sister told her to buy, which was Priscilla and Angelica root. The young man agreed that they needed the team, and if neither were in the stock, she said that arrowroot was okay as a replacement too. After she left, he just stood there and started sighing, that if the elemental mage had not made a fuss, that all of the things would not have to be this complicated. He got annoyed on himself, thinking that just what was he doing? After she came out from the shop buying all the things they need, both of them started to walk towards the inn. He realized that there were so many people outside on that day. All of the people were angrily shouting curses to someone, shouting to kill them all. The barsmaid said that there was a public execution today of someone. The young man was surprised at the barsmaid mentioning such a thing, but both of them looked at it while she sighed that today was a hanging. What a shame it was. He was absolutely surprised at her saying this. He was surprised that why would hanging be a shame? Do people of this area celebrate hangings and executions like some sort of festival? Like, he understood that the city was isolated and the atmosphere was agitated in kind of a bad way. But even then, this was too much. All of this just reminded him once again that this was an absolute dogshit world. He started to feel a little bit uneasy, but looking around, he saw something at the corner of his eye. At the corner of the road, there were 3 kids sitting on a parchment paper selling some small items. Walking up to them, he asked them whether they had made all these little items. The oldest one answered that she was the one who made them. He saw that among those handmade things there were some wooden toys, some flower bracelets, and some small rings. He thought of buying them and gifting them to the elemental mage, and the bars made in order to change their mood. Although they were a little bit shoddy, but they were still good enough. While pointing at one of the classes, he asked that how much was it worth. She said that that small jewelry were 5 for a single penny. And the sculptures were 2, catching herself in the midway, changed it to 3 for a penny. He was surprised at how cheap they were selling these for. Worried that he might think it is expensive, she started flaring her arms, saying that it is not that expensive because she has cast charm that her mom had taught him and it was worth its price. She said that the cherry flower ring will help him to achieve a beautiful love. The pink flower and the plantago plated bracelet will be useful to bring durable life force. And the dolphin sculpture will help him bring wisdom to get closer to others. Hearing some commotion, he looks towards the other side while telling the kids to sell him the sculptures for 1 penny. He also added another penny for her to make the charm stronger. On the other side of the road where the bar's maid was standing, some people had surrounded a girl, trying to misbehave with her, saying her to stay still. She shouted them to stop. He was again surprised that no matter how much of a mess the public order was, doing something like this in the middle of the street was too much. A burly man was trying to misbehave with her, asking her what shampoo she used while she was just requesting him to let her go. Upon reaching her, he realized that the hair color of the girl looked really familiar. That girl surrounded by the burly man was no other than Daria, the barmaid. Loudly cussing those gangsters, he came in flying with a kick, throwing away the gangster far away. The other men was just surprised and shocked at what the heck just happened while the leader came in crashing through their middle. The young man just stayed there with blood-red aura oozing out of his body. The gangsters shouted that what the heck was wrong with this bastard. In the next moment, he instantly punched the guy in the face and gave the other guy a huge chop on his head. Seeing this, the rest of the guys pulled out their weapons. Seeing this, the young man started to laugh on the gangsters, saying that how dare they draw out their weapons. Slowly calling out to the gangsters with blood-red aura still losing out of him, he slowly unsheathed his sword out of the sheath. The gangsters started to plead that this isn't what they meant, trying to back down. But holding out his word, he started to walk towards them, saying that since they were the one who took their weapons out, it is appropriate that he does the same as well. But he also gave them an option that if they did not want to die, they should lay down their arms. The gangsters were stuck in a stalemate for a solid minute, with pale faces. While cussing out to the young man, one of the guys from the gangster group started to run away. He shouted what a disloyal person that was. But realizing that the young man was still standing in front of him, he instantly turned his head back. He tried to calm the situation down by asking him to stop there for a moment. He kept on pursuing the young man that he should calm down and that they made some kind of mistake. Some lack of judgment, but he was having none of it. Before he could say even a single word more, the young man instantly used his shield to attack the guy in his solar plexus. The guy instantly fell down, whereas the other guy started to shriek by looking at him. The guy started to shout that why was he hitting the sim when he said that he would let them live if he put down his weapons. He punched him in the nose while saying that he was letting them live. While looking around, he tried to find the first guy who ran away at the beginning. He wanted to chase him and beat him up, but not leaving Daria alone was a higher priority in his mind. He turned around and called out to her. While grabbing the ration bags back up, he came walking to her, asking her, was she okay? She said that she was okay. Offering his hand for her to hold, he said that they should head back to the inn. One of the gangster guys woke up from unconsciousness and started to cuss the young man. He warned him that he will remember his face and that he will find him soon and kill him. He chuckled at the gangster's warning. He used all of his strength to kick the neck of the gangster this time. He mocked him, saying that he should say these kind of stuff at his home under his blanket. Like this, he was just asking him to kill him right now. The gangster again warned him that if he kills him, then Lord Ubar will never leave him. He got reminded by the name Ubar that he had heard it somewhere, but he thought that it was not important right now and that he will remember it later. Kneeling down and holding the gangster's head by his hair, he started to laugh, saying that he was funny because if he was going to not let him live normally, then would not it be normal for the young man to kill him right now? Daria stopped him, saying to go back because the guards may come at any moment. Two guards instantly reached the location, shouting everybody to move aside while the young man and Daria got ready to go back to the camp. He commented how these guards are never able to stop crimes, but they sure arrive promptly at times like these. But the guy kept on grinning creepily, telling the young man to just wait and watch. Before he could utter a single word more, the young man kicked his lower jaw, breaking it apart. Holding Daria's hand, both of them sprinted to escape the guards. After some time in a different location, they stood out of the reach of the guards, sighing with relief that they won't be chased by them anymore. Daria asked him, that was he not feeling tired? He refused, saying that he was okay. He looked towards her, saying that she was absolutely drenched in sweat and was breathing rapidly. He caught himself from looking at her in any bad way. He looked away, telling her to get a lot of rest and thinking to himself to let go of his worldly desires. Putting down his back's rations, the young man sighed of relief that he was already feeling a lot better. Setting them aside, he again looked towards her, asking her if she was okay. She said she was, thanking him that she got to live another day because of him. He apologized to her, saying that because he was not looking, all of the gangster people came to her. She refused, saying that it was not his fault because who could have thought that something like this could happen in such a short period of time. Then she added that it was her fault in the first place because she was a young woman, and she went outside in the square by herself when the atmosphere around the harbor was so dangerous already. He just looked shocked at her, thinking that how could just going to the town square alone make it her fault? Then he collected himself together, realizing that this was not South Korea. This was the Middle World's Milanor Kingdom, the South Harbor, a place where people laugh and cheer and celebrate it as a festival when they see someone get hanged. For people like this, you cannot use your contemporary logic or your feelings back from your homeworld, because doing so would be completely stupid. He realized that this was wrong no matter what, so he turned around and told her to not blame herself. While holding her hand, he told her that it was not her fault. It was the gangster's fault. Hearing this with a bright smile, she thanked him for saying this. Realizing that he said something completely out of the ordinary, he guessed that he may have been changing without him even knowing after coming to this place. Daria asked him that, where did he go earlier anyways? Pulling out the small handmade ring, he showed it to her, saying that some kids were selling these at the street stall earlier. He bought them because he thought that it would look good on her. She got really happy upon seeing the handmade ring, instantly taking it in her hands. With a bright smile, she thanked him for gifting her this. He realized that he has been subconsciously trying to hit on Daria. He thought that maybe his heart fluttered on seeing her, or maybe it was the instinct of the game's character itself. But then suddenly she asked him whether all of this is going to be okay or not. Because even though all of them were bad people, they were all of Ubar's subordinates. Hearing his name again, he just asked that who the heck this person was. She replied that this guy was a gangster ringleader who controls the market. And there were rumors about him that he is a terrible person who deals with swords and slaves. Upon hearing this, the young man seemed to recall something from the name Ubar, who was a gangster ringleader. After thinking for a bit, he instantly realized who this Ubar character was. This was none other than the Kingpin Ubar. He was one of the fixed-name enemies that appeared in the Chapter 2 of the Dark World campaign game. The young man then started to explain about the game that in the Dark World it has roguelike features like hardcore mode, random option mode, terrain monster mode, and other option modes, but there are also monsters that are compulsory to be defeated in order to keep the scenario going, and these entities are called fixed-name enemies. The young man tried to remember the scenario for which he had to fight Uba in the first place, but he realized that the previous him found the part annoying and just skipped the story to the final boss battle. Now he got absolutely worried that he had no idea what the story was because he skipped all of it. Looking at him, Daria asked him whether he was worried for something, but he said that she did not need to worry much because he was sure that this Ubar guy would not know who he was in the first place. But she said that since he was already famous, there was a pretty good chance that the guys he beat up earlier are going to talk about him. But she reassured him that since he was not covered in bloods, there might be a lower chance of him being recognized. The young man agreed to her sentence. But we realized that the main reason he was worried was because this was not a game, but this was a reality. He was worried what if that Ubar guy raids the inn or comes in looking for him, what he should do, and if that happens, what happens to the original story in the first place. While keeping the rations on some sort of platform, he understood that he needed to complete the progression of the story before the Ubar finds him. He thought of getting to know the Lord and the Commander Guard in order to get a little bit help from them. Daryl then again called out to him for one last time, and he responded by turning his head. Giving a big kiss on his cheek, Daria thanked the young man for everything that he had done today for her. She ran away while hiding her embarrassment while he could just look at her. He was happy and annoyed at how sly she was and how she had him played like a fiddle. But even after all that, he considered this day to be the best day since he had come into this world. Now he turned his attention towards the mage whom he had to support, but then suddenly he heard some noise coming from that room. The mage was shouting to someone to put their dirty hand away while cursing them. He understood what was happening in front of him. Without wasting a moment, he instantly started to run towards her room. He bashed the door, barging in where he saw that Jillian was trying to force himself onto her while she was refusing him. He instantly moved his eyes around the room to scan everything about what was happening. He was relieved to see that she was okay. After scanning the room, he got a faint grasp of what was happening. Jillian was trying to wipe the mage down, but she was refusing. He slowly walked towards him, asking him to get out this instance. Gillian tried to explain himself, saying that he was misunderstanding something because Sister Olga told him to wipe her down in the first place. Without wasting a moment, he grabbed onto his neck, pinning him against the wall. Now, with blood-red aura starting to ooze out of him with angry eyes, he told him to get out of the room. Jillian, struggling to breathe through his hold, asked him that what did he even do for him to act like this? But then suddenly, the mage shouted him to stop right now from going any further. The young man then released him while Jillian kept on coughing, saying that, just you wait, but he just told him to shut up. The young man, with blood-red anger in his eyes, said that he cannot control himself right now. So he warned Jillian that if he did not leave that room right now this instance, then he might actually beat him up. With a grumpy expression, Jillian walked out of the room while the young man still looked at him in anger. Turning his eyes towards the mage, he asked her if she was okay. She said that she was, then he told her to lie down because she was drenched in sweat. While she was lying down, he went to the medicine that he bought for her while she clutched her blanket and said that she thought he left. Bringing his ear to hear her clearly, he asked that where did she think that he went for? She said just anywhere. He chuckled and asked if she was still half asleep because why would she be speaking nonsense all of a sudden? Bringing the medicine, he said that he went to buy herbs on Sister's request, but he just went to the general store and brought the medicine that Oreg himself made. While bringing out the medicine, he brought out the bracelet that he had bought for a penny, which he had forgotten about. Holding out the bracelet, he asked her to hold out her hand. He then put on the bracelet on her arm, and she was just surprised to see it. The young man with a big cheeky smile said that this bracelet was handmade from weaving pink flowers and plantain together. He continued that whoever will be wearing this bracelet, they will be healthy. So he encouraged her to wear it while asking if the size was okay or not. Hearing this, the mage started to cry. Seeing her cry, he got concerned that what happened. He smiled, saying that she must be so happy that she started to cry. The young man felt proud to himself, thinking that gifts were all about planning, and he nailed this one. But she corrected him, saying that this bracelet was made out of ragweed, not plantain. Confused, he said that the kid said this was plantain, but while crying through tears, she said that this was seaweed. He added that all it matters that it looked pretty, but she said that if somebody wears this, they might get hives. He then went down to her, asking her to return it so that he can throw it out. But she refused, saying that doesn't matter. But then he said to do as she pleased, calling her a rude support. Both of them left the inn while she was carrying all the supplies. The young man took a deep breath, saying that the early morning air is really fresh. He kept on babbling, telling her to take a deep breath as well to see how fresh it was, but she just kept silent, looking at him. She advised him then to enjoy whatever it is as it is. Because if someone forces them to enjoy things, then things are bound to get out of balance. With a serious expression, she kept on continued that this applied to magic, martial arts, politics, academics, and in each field balance was necessary. So one should meditate every day and observe themselves in order to protect the balance. She instantly got cut off by the young man pinching her cheeks, saying that who was she to keep so much of a balance who overdid herself and got bedridden for an entire day? She shouted to him to stop pinching her cheeks. She kept on hitting him like a cat's paw while he laughed at how energetic she was this early morning. A homeless guy on the side of the road got woken up by their banter. The homeless guy shouted at them that why were they fussing around this early morning and to let him sleep. The young man thought that even if the prices were so high that they were forced into homelessness, did they mean that the road was their bedroom or something? And he even thought of complaining them to the guards later. He suddenly got reminded of how the owner of the boat horn inn where he was staying at said that they were also losing business rapidly, because even if they tried to lowering the meal prices by half, not a single customer was coming. He thought that the overall situation was quite severe. And even the Grania's mercenary group also changed their accommodation to the barracks near the salt castle. Although he thought that this might be because of his brawl with Gilius the previous day. While thinking about this, he got reminded of his own finances. While at the back, the mage was trying to fight back with the homeless people. Realizing his finances, he asked the mage to hurry up, but she was angry that the homeless were trying to start a fight while she was unable to do anything. He started dragging her, saying that they need to first make money. They can do other things later, because the money he had left was just 3 silvers and 6 pennies. She agreed to come with him and asked him to stop dragging her. The young man then started to explain the mechanism of the sewers. It was a mini dungeon of 5 to 8 floors. There were 2 basic formations, with at least 2nd to 5th floor being the ancient empire sewers. The top area was called the surface layer. Below them, there were 3 random floors which were called the rotting underground, which were also known as the deeper layers. But these deeper layers were just dark and had nothing to do with the main storyline of the game. So people only came down here if they had to farm experience or grind up levels. Holding the bull's eye lamp, the young man and the mage started to walk down the sewers. He was about to turn crazy by the smell of the dungeon. He was annoyed at how the guard at the gate, although nagged him a bunch of times, absolutely did not tell him anything about the terrible smell of the sewers. And he blamed himself for not having the foresight to prepare beforehand when he already knew that he was going into some place known as the sewers. But the mage's attention was grabbed by something she saw. Turning around, the young man asked the mage whether she was okay with the smell, but she did not respond to him, instead kept looking at something. He asked that what was with that expression she had. He looked around, saying that she was acting as if she had seen something weird. On the corner of his eye, he saw that a man had fallen unconscious near the pillars of the sewers. He was surprised to see a man over there and started to worry whether they were alive or not. He then concluded that they must be dead because there was no other reason to find someone lying down in a place like this. Putting down his rations bag, he told her to be on guard. She agreed, saying that she was keeping a lookout. He ordered her to carry her crossbow and be on her guard, and that he will go and check who was it. He started walking towards the man holding his sword and his shield, asking her to watch his back. Worried, he started thinking that it all had been a single path till now, but the fact that there were corpses ahead of him meant that there were monsters ahead as well. So he toned down his footsteps and thought to himself that he needs to approach this as covertly as possible, but his leg stepped in some kind of slime. A monster which looked like a worm with teeth on its mouth jumped out of the slime. The worm stood in front of him making scary noises. He realized that the worm was a burying beetle, and it was eating the insides of the corpse of the person. He was absolutely disgusted seeing this in front of him in real life. The young man commented on how big this beetle was, but then suddenly something attacked his knee. He got extremely confused and worried as to what attacked his foot. Hit with pain, he could not stand up and started to kneel down. He realized it was the mage's crossbow and that she had actually shot him in his leg. Unable to say anything, she just stood there, frozen, saying sorry. He shouted and called her a crazy bitch. But then the burying beetle also came to attack him as well. He grabbed his sword and readied himself for action. With a swift motion, he instantly attacked the worm's mouth with his sword. The beetle instantly got chopped off in half, splattering blood and flesh everywhere. He stomped on the squirming body of the beetle, permanently killing it. He flicked his sword in order to throw off all of the gunk flesh and blood that was attached to it. The mage shouted to warn him that there were more of these guys in front of him ready to attack. One of the bugs started to crawl up and eat the flesh and the corpse of the previously killed bug. The young man realized that this area was a corpse field. It was disgusted at the number of bugs that were present there. But he consoled himself that by killing one of them, he has already become stronger than them. So them being disgusting was no meaning to him now. He taunted to the bugs to come at him all at once. He said that he will kill them just like he killed the previous one. He kept on attacking the bugs with his sword, killing them one by one. Another one with the boots, another one to the chop to its net. One by one, he nearly killed all of the bugs that were present in the area. He opened his water bottle, disgusted by these creatures. Dunking the water on himself, he anguished at how dirty he felt because his entire body was splashed with fluids. He reminded himself that how he was completely fine killing a dozen of people at the dock. But just a few bugs shaped him so much. He blamed himself for being too weak. After fighting with all of them, he turned his attention around to the mage who was standing at his rear. He got reminded of something that he wanted to ask, but she was just squirming around holding the crossbow in her hand. He remembered that this was the expression his niece would have before she was about to be scolded by her mother, but he caught himself realizing that he did not even say anything to her yet. He realized the reason she was acting like this because she was guilty of attacking in his leg with her crossbow. But luckily his thigh seemed to be completely fine from the attack from earlier. He started to mock her, saying that she was a really talented archer to be able to hit him perfectly. She said she was sorry again. He was annoyed at the way she said sorry to him. Like, I said I am sorry. So he wanted her to correct herself to say I am sorry instead. Wiping her eye, she said that she was talking about the earlier story that she had told him. He asked, when did she say? She replied that she said it just after she hit him. He then questioned her that did she actually say it? Thinking that maybe she might have actually said it. She apologized to him once more, saying that she hit him accidentally because she was really nervous. He was surprised at how sincere her apology this time was. He then forgave her, saying that instead of aiming close to him, try to aim to the enemy. She agreed that she will shoot more carefully from now on. The young man thought that he should at least show her the generosity of an adult. After that, both of them started to walk down to the second floor. The young man decided to do this because he thought of understanding the area as a reality, not as a game. Luckily, there were no other monsters there except for a few low flies, and they were able to continue the exploration by getting rid of the zombies and other burying beetles. And right about when they completed exploring the entire second floor, they started to get hungry. While eating the dry bread, the mage tells him that he absolutely eats these really well. Does he even swallow something tasteless as this? He answers that these are not that bad. She said that she cannot eat in a place like this, and the bread was so hard that her jaw started to hurt. She even felt like she was about to vomit. The young man just looked at her and asked that what was her condition. Was she feeling tired? With a smug look, she said to him that she does not get tired from anything like this. The young man looked back, thinking that it's been already half a day since they have entered the dungeon, and they have been exploring and fighting side by side. And she was the one who carried the bags because he had to do combat. So it was not that strange for her to have already collapsed by exhaustion by now. He asked that since they have already explored the second floor, should they return back? The mage said that although this is what they have decided on, but she still wanted to explore a little bit more until the next floor stairs start. Upon asking why, she said that it could not hurt to get a grasp of the area and prepare for it since they were going to go there anyway. And if they accidentally bump into a rat man, they might also be able to earn some money because all the small fries up till now don't give any. He agreed, but he also told her to not rush this and go slowly. He thought that unlike the game, the monsters do not spit out money here. Instead, they have to collect the items like the Ratman's tail and trade them for money. He then wondered that how can one receive things like magical items, unique items, something like which was on his finger. He wore a ring, which was the unique item that Dragon Slayer seal which gave strength and agility buff, along with other buffs as well. This was an item he had kept in his storage as his new game account. It was an inheritance from his old game account which died. But he also remembered that the old man Trickster had gave him back all of the equipment after the PvP ended, which means he had many other things like belt, accessories. He wondered where those were now. The next moment, his foot stepped into a puddle of water. He wondered why the basement of the third floor was filled with water. The mage answered that there might be a blockage in the downstream or there might be a new upstream. The young man saw that she was feeling really exhausted by now. He told that they were going to look around for now, and since their bags were really heavy, he told them to leave them on the stairs. Both of them kept on walking through the water in the third floor. The mage said that something was weird because there were no corpses, no garbage, nothing. Looking around, he agreed with her. He then pointed her to look at something at the ground. On the ground there were some eggs and some of them were buried in dirt. Both of them inspected the eggs for a little bit. The mage realized that only one monster could leave their eggs in a place like this. Realizing who that monster was, her face turned pale. With a really scared look, she turned around to the young man, telling him that they needed to leave right now. Understanding the severity and looking around, he also agreed to leave. While running out of the third floor, He kept on cursing his previous self who had completely forgotten about this scenario. He also cursed his current self who should have known something was wrong the moment the mage told that something was off. Because the only place which had water and dirt with no human traces and only eggs the size of human fish was... It meant that some kind of monster had come up from the underground. A crocodile monster jumped out of the water and started chasing the both of them. The young man shouted the mage to run faster. He realized that she was unable to speed up because they were already in water up to the ankles and she had already used up a lot of her stamina. Turning back and dropping his bullseye lantern in the water, he realized that there was only one way left. He turned around, pulled out his sword and his shield, readying himself to face the crocodile. The mage, heavily panting, shouted to him that why was he not going? The young man shouted back to her, to go on ahead first. He will escape on his own. She shouted that she also did not want to go back then. She then shouted to warn him of the incoming attack. He kept on shouting just how stubborn she was, but the crocodile opened its maw in order to attack him. Seeing the warning from the mage, he instantly turned his head around towards the crocodile. The crocodile crashed its head and teeth onto him, taking the young man and it underwater. The mage just stood and saw when both of them went underwater. But the young man had actually not gone down. He had withstood its attack by using his shield. He kept on holding the crocodile back while thanking his strong shield for protecting him. In anger and rage, he started to prepare himself for the next attack. He took his sword and jabbed it into the head of the crocodile, but the sword went and attacked its eye instead. Enraged and in pain, the crocodile started to spin around rapidly, spinning around the young man as well. With water and dirt splashing around his face, he was barely keeping himself together. Now the crocodile started to whiz and thrash the young man around. Moving around even fast, he realized that something inside his body just snapped. He looked towards the mage who was still standing there, realizing that he had already told her to run away. But she had still did not. She then shouted at him to close his eyes. A single shot from the mage's crossbow went and hit the crocodile straight in its head. A red powder burst out of the shot and the crocodile screamed in pain. The young man realized that this smelled like chili powder. Now that the crocodile was busy, she shouted to him to get up. She shouted that this was the perfect time for him to get up and kill the crocodile. She motivated him once more to get up. The young man began to ooze his red aura onto his sword. Now, with red aura enveloping his entire body, he got up once more to fight. Using his sword, he jabbed it right into the underside of the crocodile's neck. With a single strike, he cut the entire head of the crocodile clean off. The now decapitated crocodile fell behind him, splashing blood and water all over him. The young man fell down to his knees, sighing in relief that he had almost died, but he finally won. He turned around to ask the mage that what did she has shot earlier. While he was trying to give some guesses, she was shaking while cussing him under her breath. Crying loudly, she shouted out to him, "That was he dumb or something? Did he wanted to die or something?" Confused, he asked that why was she acting like this suddenly, but in anger she kicked with his boot right onto his shin. Screaming in pain, he held his shin, stroking it, but the mage kept on looking at him in anger. She warned him to not do anything like this ever again, to ever jump headfirst into danger and ask her to run away. Now, in tears at this point, she promised that if he did something like this ever again, she will absolutely kill him. But the young man tried to refute her, saying that he did not do this often, only to get cut off by her, who shouted that he did, and kept on kicking his shin. While crying in pain, the young man wanted to buy some shin guards from next time onwards. While tying some bandages, the young man screamed a little bit and asked her to be careful because it was a fracture. She angrily told him to endure it because he was the first one who was careless and now he was facing the consequences of it. While looking away, she told that she could not wrap it and asked him to do it instead. He got a little annoyed as why did he had to do it because he was hurt already. Thinking back, he got reminded and asked her that when did she make that tear gas bomb. Getting annoyed by this question, she tightened his bandage, which caused him to shriek a little bit, and answered that she got this when he was busy having fun with the spinster. It's not like she spent 6 pieces of silver just to buy a crossbow that could shoot rocks. But he requested her to at least tell him in advance about these things because it could be helpful to him. She asked, what did he mean? He told her that he needed to know this beforehand, because without it, he would be dead. She understood. Looking around with a tsundere expression, she told that she had also made a poison bomb and a fire bomb as well. Surprised and impressed by it, he asked that, when did she make something like that? With a happy expression, he thought in his mind that just a while ago this brat was nothing but a crying child with a runny nose, but she was so dependable now. It was so much better to see her like this. After the first aid session, they decided to head back with the crocodile skin and the eggs. He strapped the crocodile skin onto his backpack and dragged it out, which was quite chore. Since they had already searched all the routes beforehand, they were able to go up without any enemies. They sold all the crocodiles skinned to the Lord. He was a little bit annoyed to sell off something so valuable, but he was happy that he got a fair price for it. Then they went back to the inn. Seeing the young man like this, Daria shrieked out in horror. She screamed what happened to him. With a slight smile, he answered that he came across a crocodile. She got even more worried. He tried to explain a bit more, but she insisted him to clean up and let her see their wounds. But the mage kept on looking at both of them with an annoyed expression. Keeping the annoyed expression, she asked him to give her all of her items. Daria answered that she will first clean up a little bit, then she will bring it to her, the mage agreed. Then she turned to him, insisting him to clean up at earliest. He started to cry, thinking that she was some sort of an angel. 2 days later, he was in his room with all of the bandages open, checking for his wounds. All of his wounds were already healed because he had a passive skill called flowing blood. From the other side of the room, he heard the sound of the mage making some noises. The mage's body was in pain and she was shaking the entire time. He started to laugh on her as if something was pulling her from behind. She shouted him to stop. The young man realized that because she had carried a heavy backpack, walked for one day, ran around and fought monsters. It was understandable that she had severe muscle pain. He got out of his bed and started to stretch a little bit. She asked that where was he going. He said that he was going to bring Daria because she had severe sore muscles. He was going to ask her to give her a massage. With an annoyed expression, she said, "Who asked him to do something like that? Why would she want to get a massage from the barmaid?" Annoyed, he said that how nasty she can be in saying stuff like this, but she insisted that she did not want her to touch her. He was confused as to what caused her to hate Daria so much to make a face like this. She said that the massage was just an excuse for him, because she knew that he was actually calling her to have fun with her. Didn't he? The young man just straight up refused her, saying that he didn't, and he told her to stop calling Daria as a barsmaid. But she turned her head around, laying on the bed, saying that she was going to get some sleep. She shouted him to get out. Annoyed, he asked her, what did she meant by get out? Did she had any idea what sort of chaos the city was in? Without turning her head around, she answered that no one was even coming to the inn anyway, and she was more than capable enough of taking care of herself. So she concluded by saying that it was his choice if he wanted to go out or not. The young man noticed that there was something in between the pillow covers of her. The mage had her crossbow hidden beneath the pillow. So he realized that it was why she said that she was able to take care of herself. Because apparently, there was a small-scale public execution the last day. Catering to her wishes, he left her on the bed, saying that he was going to get some armor, still worrying if it was okay or not. Leaving her in the bed, he thought that it was probably okay because nothing could happen to her in broad daylight, inside the inn. In the armor workshop, he, along with Daria, gave all of his equipment to repair, and the workers promised to repair it as fast as possible. After that, he and Daria went out of the shop. He decided to accompany Daria, who was going to the mill at the time, because his armor workshop was on the same road anyways. The wheat was to be divided among the people. Because of the recent spike in crimes, the owner could not just leave the tavern unmanned. So he told Daria to do it, but was dangerous for her to go to a mill alone in a faraway place like this. So to return the favor of her taking care of him and the mage, he decided to go with her. After both of them reaching the mill, they found out that the place was really empty. It also looked kind of creepy, and there were weird rumors as well as if the mill keeper mixed sand into the grain. But Daria added that even in this isolated place, there were also regions where people lived. People like tanners, mill keepers, and executioners lived together. So she was sure that there won't be any bad people around here because there were guards as well. The young man realized that there were a lot of guards because they had to get through the gates to get here. He was worried about the kingpin Ubar's subordinates, but looking at this much guards, he was relieved. Both of them reached some sort of a stable. Daria sat down on one of the haystacks, gleefully exclaiming how nice and cozy it was. Looking at the young man, she said that why was he still standing while inviting him to sit down beside her. He sat down beside her but asked her that whether it was okay to just wait there and see. He was worried that there were rumors about the mill guy mixing sand in the grains, so was it okay to just sit there and not observe him? She answered that the mill guy would not even start working if they went to watch him. He asked why. She answered that if they went to watch him in secret, then the guy will probably try to kill them, saying that they were trying to steal his trade secrets. While kicking her legs, she said to not think about it and just played tag while they waited. Then, tying his eyes shut, Daria went to hide somewhere saying that the game was started. She then kind of ran the around entire barn, giving him hints on where she was. He thought that how cute she was trying to play around like this. But in reality, he was just playing around, pretending that he could not see. But because he was a blood knight, his senses were way more stronger than a normal human. And he could clearly sense breathing and movement even with his eyes closed. While running around, she accidentally stepped on a rope and lost her footing, then started to fall backwards. Within an instant, the young man came to her and held her, protecting her from falling down. Without being able to say anything, she just stared at the young man's face. She could feel that her hand was on his chest, and her heart was beating really rapidly. He asked her if she was okay. She could just stammer out a thank you. He took his hand behind his head in order to open his blindfold, but Daria stopped his hand from doing it. She slowly brought down his hand down to her level, and interlocked her small fingers between his huge ones. She brought her face closer to his. Even with his eyes closed with the blindfold, he could clearly feel a fast heartbeat and a small peck on his lips. Both of them understood what was happening and kept on holding each other's hands. He finally opened his blindfold to see the scene in front of him. The sunlight peeking through the barn door was brightening up her green eyes. Her emerald green eyes looked like the Mediterranean Sea in the sunlight. He felt as if those eyes were keeping him hostage, preventing him from looking anywhere else. As if he was programmed in his instincts, he just went in for the kiss. He wondered why was this happening. He wondered if he deserved to receive such a love in such a world. But the next moment, his danger senses kicked in instantly. A bunch of goons came into the barn talking to each other if they saw those two entering this barn or not. The young man told Daria that multiple people were coming into the barn. She, scared, asked that were these people were not related to the mill people. He answered no. The group reached in front of them, saying that these two must be the ones they were talking about. He was once again reminded that this city was nothing but a mess. He cannot even go anywhere with the ease to mind. He told Daria it's going to be okay and asked her to stay back. He saw that these were just normal people holding spears and axes. He understood that these are just some idiots who banded together thinking that they could steal his equipment. Upon closer inspection, he saw that they were holding military-grade weapons, so he thought to be careful. These weapons can be dangerous even if they swing it around without any technique. One of the guys saw Daria and told everyone how pretty she was, suggesting that they can just take her as a servant for a mercenary organization to do chores. The young man pulled out his sword from its sheath and started to walk towards them. The goons shouted at him that was he planning on fighting. Why didn't he just abandon his equipment and the lady and run away? With smirk, the young man realized that after dealing with those experienced pirates, these hooligans were nothing but a joke to him. Releasing his blood-red aura, he shouted that he was not going to abandon anything and told them to go home and sleep before it's their bedtime instead of getting killed here. The goons said that was he out of his mind, that he was trying to scare them with just some arrogance. All he had to show was a big body and big shoulders. He sighed, thinking that he could have avoided this bloodshed only if they heeded his warning. But it looked as if it was not going to work anymore. Instead, he thought of just cutting off a few limbs of a few guys. Then it was going to work. Then suddenly, an old man in a hat shouted everyone to wait and stay in their places. He shouted the young men to stop in their tracks. The goons just told him to not be annoying and get out of there. The old man started to laugh a little bit and asked them to listen to him after getting that response. The young man, on seeing this person, had a hint of realization that he looked familiar. The old man said that a few days ago there was a public execution nearby, and one of the executioners from that got beaten to death by a mob. Since the executioner was a young man, novice, and was at his first execution, he got nervous, and he could not cut off the neck in one clean bit, and he kept on making mistakes. There was a superstitious rumor that was going around that if an executioner was not able to kill a person in just one hit, the dead man's soul will come back for revenge. So that's why the people watching the execution pulled him out and beat him to death. The young executioner was being brought there, but he died right there. So just how much resentment the executioner must be in because he died of unnecessary death like that? The old man warned this. One of the goons held the old man by his collar, shouting that, what was he talking about? Calling him a crazy guy. Did he think that the goons were his grandson, that they will run away pissing their pants if he just told them a scary story? The old man chuckled for a bit and said that he did not try to do anything like that, but he thought of warning them at least once. Then pointing towards their heads, he told them to look upwards. All of them saw that a mirage of a ghostly skull made out of green and purple aura was floating above their heads. He shouted that this was the executioner's soul. He was out to get everyone. He told everyone to run to the church. All of them, scared shitless, started to run towards the church, screaming in terror. Daria, also scared by the ghostly magic, told the young man that they should also run to the church right now, but calmly sheathing his sword. He told her that there was no need to be scared. He put his arms around her, saying that there was nothing to be scared because this skull was just a mirage created by something like magic. Rubbing his hands behind his head, he chuckled for a bit, saying that the young man had a really good eye for spotting this one out. Now, while observing him closely, the old man said that, was he not the bloodied swordsman who fought the Battle of the Wharf? He said that his nickname was Phoenix. With a slight smile, he introduced himself, saying that he had heard a lot about him. Then he asked whether both of them were injured anywhere. The young man also smiled back, saying that he was okay along with Daria, and he thanked him for saving both of them from this predicament. The old man laughed, saying that he did this only because he was worried that the young men would lose their lives. The young man laughed, saying that it's not like he was going to kill them or anything. Hearing this, the old man apologized for being nosy and imagining things on his own. Then he began to take down his head in front of them. When holding his hat in his hand, he asked to formally introduce himself again. Holding out his hand, he told the young man and Daira that his name was Luke. He was an undertaker. He also returned his introduction by saying, "Nice to meet you." By this point, he had completely recognized who this old man was. With the help of this man, now getting to Chapter 5 will be an absolute piece of cake. There was a necromancer who created the spiritual golden sect. His default name was Luke Farfalle. This Luke guy was capable of single attacks, wide area attacks, and status abnormality attacks. He was a multi-talented character who could control all undead, whether it was their souls, body, or a combination of both. He could create small troops with elite units, or he could even make a whole swarm with weaker units. He was a popular character because one could easily make all kinds of combinations depending upon what they wanted. In the game world previously, he did not like this character because it was not suited for a PvP matchup. But in a hardcore world like this where people were ready to die for their master ready over and over again, this was really useful. That was the reason why he was so readily working his ass off in the sun. The old man asked him, that was he not hot? He said he was okay because he was not even sweating yet. He wanted to give the necromancer a good impression by helping him bury the John Smith he found in the market. If he got this guy's good impression, then carrying out the campaigns will be much easier from there forth. And if all he needed to do is dig in order to gain his affection, he can dig all day. This was a matter for survival after all. With the John Smith buried with a cross over his head, the necromancer began to pray. Death was not lost, but a freedom. Freedom from anguish and desire, to feel free from all the life's pain. Although he had a lot of questions in his mind to ask him, but he stopped himself from doing this because this was the first interaction. Questions like, what was he doing here in South Harbor working as an undertaker? He wanted to know that if he had the staff made from the bones of the great demon, or the bronze crown yet, or if he made undead out of the society's failure yet. But he realized that his hat and the clothing that Luke was wearing was definitely the equipment he put on the necromancer's account, Fuck Corpse Manners, that he used to play. Did this account become Luke like how Mage became Ellen? He was annoyed and frustrated that he was unable to ask him any of this. The old man thanked him that he did a lot of work for him, while the young man said that it was not that much anyways. He added that he did not know that there was an undertaker working at South Harbor. The old man answered that he was here because there was a church here. The old man continued saying that he was the only one undertaker in the city currently. He said that he was not around here. He came from the island with people going eastward from across the sea. He wanted a place to go in a hurry because he had some matters to attend back at his home, but since the city was in a lockdown, he could not go even if he wanted to. The people he came to this country with started to get anxious because the lockdown was not going away anytime soon, and they heard that there was a passageway through the sewers and went down there. But the old man regretted that he did not work harder to stop all of them, because every single one of them died down there. The young told him that he was sorry that he had to go through such a hard thing. The old man thanked him and also said that this was why he was paying attention to the rumors about him. Looking towards him, he asked that he was the one who defeated the giant crocodile down the sewers. Didn't he? The young man affirmed him. The old man put a request with him that if he went down there anymore, he wanted to also go with him. Because he wanted to find a way out of the city, and also he wanted to find the bodies of his companions. The young man thought that he was going to ask him to come anyways. The old man tried to explain his position by saying that even though he was old, he had a lot of experience. He was pretty healthy for his age. He can carry a lot of things. He also had a few tricks up his sleeve. The young man thought that were all of the characters connected through a string of fate or something. The old man continued saying that he followed the teachings of the spiritual golden sect. He can deal with the extinction magic a little bit, and he could also use a little bit abyss energy. Externally, he just said that he understood, but internally he was clearly gleefully shouting that a person who could deal with abyss energy and extension magic was here, which means that he finally had a good party member. He then asked if he could control some of the undead as well. This shocked Daria very much, and she shouted to him that this was very rude to ask someone directly. He asked why. She went and bowed down to the old man, saying that Phoenix was lacking a little bit in common sense part, but he did not meant anything wrong. He just made a little bit silly mistakes. The old man said that it was okay. The old man said that this is a misunderstanding that happens pretty often when someone who was learning the truth of the spiritual golden sect. Although he never imagined that the young man would be so direct, he looked in shock as he wondered that if he said something wrong. While scarily looking around, she said to him that this was an absolutely terrible thing to say. If someone from the church heard it, he could be burned at the stake. Still confused, he asked that what was so wrong with what he said. Just like earlier when he mentioned the will of the wisp. Before he could even complete his sentence, Daria grabbed his mouth to shut him up. Holding out his hands, the old man wanted to clear some misunderstanding that he thought the young man was having. He then realized that both of them thinking of something wrong. The old man corrected him, saying that the will of the wisps was just a spiritual flame made from the evil thoughts of souls. He did not have to do anything with necromancy, and he did not use any magic that went against the natural laws of death. He said that things like that, like undead, goes against the doctrines of church as well as the spiritual golden sect's teachings. He understood what the old man was saying. He realized that he overestimated things that were going too well because now, with the wand support, he now had a necromancer who could not use any necromancy. Walking towards the city, he bid both of them farewell. The young man also bid him farewell as well. The old man then finally bids farewell to Fee and Daria, gently saying that he'll see them tomorrow. As he stood there holding his head in his hand, Daria suddenly speaks up asking if he's okay. As he doesn't look too well, Fee then answers by saying that he's just thinking and that's all. Handing the money bag to the blacksmith, he thinks to himself that if Luke is really fuck corpse manners, then he should have been a necromancer of at least level 15, and that he would have Krunugia's staff and Forgotten Conqueror's crown, of which both are unique items. As he takes his shield, he mentions the hat and clothing that Luke was wearing are things that one can get even in the low-level areas, and that anyone other than fuck corpse manners could be wearing them. As he converses with Daria, he adds a but, as he mentions how he looks exactly like the male necromancer model in the game, and that his name Luke sounds like Luke for Fale. With a slightly serious look on his face, he then mentions that there are two possibilities. One being that Luke is the necromancer Luke for Fale, but not fuck corpse manners, or that he's hiding something from him. Suddenly, Daria calls out to him, telling him to look straight where smoke is emerging from somewhere, seeing that Fui asks if someplace there has caught fire. With a bit of hesitation audible in her voice, Daria tells him that their inn is in the same direction where the smoke is coming from. Fui suddenly dashes forward as he tells Daria to bring the guards as soon as possible, saying that they should be on patrol around their current location. In a worried tone, she asks him as to what he is going to do. Ignoring her question in hurry, he tells her to just hurry up and find the guards. Standing in front of their burning inn, he thinks to himself that he shouldn't have left Ellen alone when the crime rate in the city is so bad. Looking up at the burning building, he thinks to himself that the fire is only on the first floor. He continues, how there is no reason for anyone to attack this place, and if someone did that to steal food, us. He then suddenly hears of a fight inside and thinks to himself, if it's the owner's voice that he is able to hear, and if Ellen's hiding somewhere, or if she ran away, or if she's dead. He then suddenly dashes through the front door, ready to swing his sword, while people inside seem to be telling others to hurry inside and that someone can't see because of the smoke. With rage-filled eyes, he slashes at them. He continues to attack them, while other people behind him ask loudly as to who this person is who is attacking them, and then one of them yells out saying that they should run. As he continues to attack them filled with rage, he suddenly hears someone call him out, hearing that he asks if it's Ellen. The person who called out to him was Grania. He then asks her if she knows where Ellen is. Slightly panicked, Grania asks him as to where he was for so long and tells him that she should still be upstairs. Trembling in panic, Ellen stood there with a crossbow in her hands. Suddenly, she hears a loud voice calling out her name. Hearing that, she inaudibly asks if it is Fo who's calling out her name. To her surprise, Fee suddenly dashes through the door. Without saying anything, he suddenly grabs Ellen. Jumps out through the window while holding her. With a grunt, Foo slams into the ground while holding Ellen covered in his arms. Gruntingly, he asks her if she's okay. As a reply, she tells him that she is all right. With great concern in his voice, he asks her if she's hurt anywhere and if she inhaled the smoke when she was trapped in their room. Looking slightly confused, she tells him that she's okay. She then suddenly jumps up, calling him a psycho for how he just suddenly jumped off like that, saying that she might have gotten hurt by his rash decision. Confusedly, Fee answers, saying that he did just save her. With annoyance in her voice, she asks him how he got up to her through the fire and that she even used flame flower oil to strengthen the flames. In a surprised tone, he asks her if it was her who started the fire. With a worried look on his face, he asks her if she's insane for setting up the fire and if she even thought that about something going seriously bad. She replies, if she should have just stayed there as some homeless people continues to invade. He says that she should have run away instead of trying to burn herself. She suddenly speaks up in an enraged voice and reminds him how her robe is a magical equipment. She then slanders him, saying that even a goblin would be smarter than he is. Pointing at him, she scolds him for jumping into the fire to save her without thinking of any countermeasures. And before she could even finish her statement, Fawi suddenly notices some men walking towards them with their swords out in the open. Looking at them closely, Fee realizes that those guys walking towards them are bad news. He then stands in front of her and tells her to step back and stay behind him. Seeing him act that way, she asks him as to what is happening. He answers her saying that the enemy is here. Looking at the man in black, he thinks to himself that he has seen this man in the game who is standing all the way in the back. The man then asks him with a heavy tone if he's the bloodied swordsman. He then holds up the sword in his hand and wipes the blood off of it while thinking to himself as he finally remembers that this person is one of Ubar's confidants, Hitman Poison. With a mischievous smile on his face, Poison tells his subordinates that it's a good thing that they came here and that they should kill them. Poison's subordinates rush towards Fee and Ellen with their weapons held high, ready to swing at them. As the first attack lands, Fei easily blocks it with his shield. He then swings down his sword diagonally, slashing the person's throat who attacked him first, while another person gets his sword ready to swing at him. Before that other person could even swing down his sword, he is suddenly hit on his chin by a blunt flying object. Noticing that it could have been Ellen who made that shot, he screams out praising her for the nice shot she made then, while he thinks to himself that judging from their stature and posture, these people are fighters with quite a bit of professional, noteworthy training in them. Standing up with his sword and shield held up, he thinks to himself that he needs to apprehend them quickly so that he can protect Ellen. He then continues that he will have to keep an eye out for Poison, who is an assassin, when suddenly a dagger comes flying at him which was launched by Poison. With a slight grunt, he blocks the dagger. In a surprised tone, Poison inaudibly asks himself if he really just blocked that. With an ominous grin on his face, he praises him, saying that he's not bad and also that makes fighting him fun for him. Calling out to Ellen, he tells her to run away. With a slightly panicked tone, Ellen tells him to cut the bullshit. While he fights off other enemies, Ellen calls him a moron and reminds him of how he said that he would not say such things anymore. While he continues to fight off the enemies with gritted teeth, he tells her that the current situation is not the proper time for them to be arguing about that, while suddenly Poison sneaks up on him from his blind spot with his dagger. Realizing that something was wrong, he suddenly notices Poison with his dagger just inches away from him. Making a quick slash on his neck, Poison leaps forward. Grabbing the slashed area with his hand, he inaudibly curses at him while thinking to himself how he went for his neck, and that he almost just died, but luckily he wasn't able to cut too deep. Rushing towards him, Ellen worriedly asks him if he's okay. Gritting his teeth through the pain, he tells her that he's okay, and before he could say anything further, he suddenly grunts in pain. With the veins on his chin turning purple, he thinks to himself that he wasn't just cut, but this is poison that actually entered his bloodstream through the wound. Looking at Poison's blurred figure walking towards him, he curses at him in his mind, saying how fucking annoying he was in the game, and that he is even more annoying now that he's in here in front of him. Din. Panting heavily while trying to stand up straight, he thinks to himself that the spreading poison is making him feel dizzy and how all this is rendering him to even be able to barely stand straight, and that he might actually even lose to poison. As the poison starts to show its effects, he sees two of Poison walking towards him, saying how it is quite funny seeing him stumble around like that, and that no matter how strong of a warrior he is, there is no way one can ever beat Poison. As Poison walks to right in front of him, he suddenly leaps backwards while calling out to Ellen in his mind, telling her to run away. Holding up his cape to cover his face, he mockingly asks him if he thinks it is paralyzing poison on his dagger, which he cut him with. He then mentions how he heard that the bloodied swordsman was going around with a pretty lady as his porter. He then asks Ellen if that porter was her who he heard of. Hearing that he called her a porter, she angrily tells him that he speaks bullshit just like he looks, and corrects him saying that she's a mage. With a surprised expression on his face, Fui suddenly notices something strange and thinks to himself, and that his body's senses are getting sharper. Ellen tells Poison that she definitely is mage and that he should fuck off while she's still asking him nicely. Gritting his teeth in pain, Fui continues that he can clearly feel the blood that's surging inside his body, along with the foreign things that are trapped inside his body. With an amused tone in his voice, he tells Ellen that he likes her fervor and that it's just because of that why he will specially let her live. She then asks what he is trying to say. Before she could even finish her sentence, he interrupts her in between and tells her that he's in no way letting the bloodied swordsman alive, as that is his task. Ellen just silently holds up her crossbow in her hand, ready to fire at him if he were to make any sort of movement. Pulling out his dagger from its sheath, he asks her if he really wants to die for no reason, even when he is going to let her get away like that. Calling her a fake mage, he tells her to peacefully put her toy down. Before they could converse any further, Fee interrupts them with his vomiting sound. Seeing him vomit out blood, Ellen worriedly calls out to him. With a bit of his vomit flowing to his chin while he continues to breathe heaving, he thinks to himself that he just used blood magic to somehow gather the poison and spit it out, but that doesn't make his condition recover immediately at all. He then continues that he will have to last until he somehow just gets better. Suddenly, a foot comes flying at his face. It was Poison's foot that hit him right in the face, knocking him back a few meters. Ellen suddenly yelps in surprise, seeing him flying back meters away from just a kick, while Poison curses at him, calling him a bug-like bastard. With his back facing a well, he stutteringly tells Ellen to run away while thinking to himself if this is how he is going to die. Looking at Poison with gritted teeth, he thinks to himself that it is a bit dispiriting to think that he would be dying not to Ubar, but to one of his subordinates. As Poison stands there in front of him with his unsheathed dagger, he continues that he, who raised the strongest blood knight, is going to die to a trash mob who, although is a named character, only comes out at Chapter 2. While looking at the panicked Ellen calling out to him, he continues how this situation is exactly a Kim Sung-soo-like ending. As Poison holds his dagger up, ready to swing down at him, he continues that this death would really suit him. The death of a normal middle-class citizen who got randomly put in a barbaric world like this is really going to suit someone like him. As the dagger is just a couple of inches away from his face, Ellen screams out saying that he can't let another person leave her like this. With a confused expression on his face, he slightly murmurs, asking as to what she is even saying and what that even means. Ellen suddenly experiences a flashback of the day her master died right in front of him. She hears her master call out to her. With weepy eyes, she looks at him saying that she's right here and that it's her, Eleanor, and that she's here, right beside him. As she tries to cover up his wound with her hands, he tells her to cross the strait and that fate will be waiting for her. With a broken voice, she tells him to stop talking and worriedly that his blood just won't stop gushing out no matter how much she tries to stop it. With blood coming out of his mouth, her teacher tells her that she is the only one who can stop the end and that it can only be done by her as she is the descendant of Radha Karlin. Returning to the present, she tells herself how she couldn't do anything when she needed to most, no matter how much she tried. She then hears her master saying now she's a flower that bloomed late. With that last sentence, she suddenly fires 3 concentration wind balls at Poison, disarming him. She then repeats the words of her teacher, that one day her scent will cover the entirety of the middle world. With that, she chants up another spell through her tear-soaked face. As he finishes up chanting it, a huge green light sphere forms in between her palms. With that, she prepares herself to launch the chanted Wind Fist at Poison. The attacks fall right where Poison was standing, in front of Fu, but due to his high agility and keen senses, he easily dodges them. Trying to look up through the pain, Faye thinks to himself if this person is really the same Ellen that he knows, and that it's really surprising how she just used wandless magic. Standing on the burning inn's roof, Poison asks if that woman really was a mage as she claimed herself to be. Trying to stand up through the pain, he tells Ellen that they have to catch him, looking at him with a confused look on her face. She tells him that Wind Fist cannot reach that far. He then tells her to cast a flaming arrow at him. With tears continuing to flow out of her eyes, she asks him if he's really asking her to cast a flaming arrow, a spell that she has never tried casting. He tells her to just hurry up and cast it before he gets away. She then closes her eyes, imagining the shape of the flaming arrow as she starts chanting its spell, while thinking to herself that even if she hasn't ever tried casting it, she can at least give it her best. As she finishes the chanting, she points her hands towards Poison, guiding the flaming arrow in his direction. The flaming arrow hits his spine and passes through him, coming out through his upper abdomen. As the flaming arrow hits him, he falls down on the spiky fence and dies. Seeing his condition, Foe soon announces that he's dead. With a satisfied smile on his face, he praises Ellen for doing a good job. Hearing that Ellen turns her head towards him with teary eyes, she then calls out his name with a soft, emotional voice. Looking at Poison's corpse while managing through his own pain, he thinks to himself if should be happy or sad, seeing how pathetically Poison died. The same Poison who led him to near death. Faye suddenly turns his head towards Ellen, who's currently kneeling in front of him as she asks him, while looking at her palm, if she's currently in a dream. With a gentle smile on her face as tears flow down, she looks up at him and happily says that she just used magic and even without a wand. With a gentle expression on his face, he reassures her that he saw her do that as well, and he then congratulates her on her advancement. He then narrates that it's thanks to Daria calling the guards, the fire was quickly put out, and that it was a relief that the inn didn't collapse, even when almost half of the second floor was burned away. He then continues that they even gathered up the corpses of those who attacked the inn and those who were attacked, and that there were around 40 deaths. He then mentions that the inn owner luckily managed to escape the fire, but the other workers who were in there weren't able to make it out alive, and all of them passed away. He continues that despite his struggles, the owner never blamed Ellen for causing the fire, while saying that if anything, the fire helped avoid everyone getting murdered by the mercenaries. He then says how the guards didn't help much with resolving things, but just continued talking amongst themselves and how their behavior pisses him off, as how they treat this tragedy as annoying work. Gritting his teeth, he curses Ubar, calling him a bastard. He then mentions that there were at least 10 serious cases of robbery, murder, and rape that day itself, and that things couldn't get any worse than they are, in a city with a mere population of 10,000. Turning to Ellen, he mentions how she has been meditating calmly amidst all this chaos around her. Looking at her surrounded with mana, he thinks to himself how she didn't even spare a glance while everyone around her was suffering trying to deal with the inn. As he walks towards Ellen, he continues how he decided not to say anything for a while since she finally succeeded at using magic as she wanted so badly to. As he was walking towards Ellen, he suddenly hears a person calling him. He then turns to see that it was Grania that called him. She tells him that he looks fine despite how she thought. Putting his hand on his chest, he tells her that it was nothing but just a scratch to him, and he then asks her if they are okay. Grania then tells him that Anton has been badly hurt and that his arm has a deep wound. Suddenly, the other woman with her, Arnil, steps forward and says how he might not be able to use that arm ever again if he's unlucky. With an annoyed expression on her face, she closes the distance between herself and Fee and asks him why he doesn't seem to at least pretend to feel bad. As she does that, he thinks to himself as to why they are mad at him. With a pissed-off expression on her face, Ellen steps forward saying that it's real funny and as to why she's blaming Fee when it was Arnil's fault for not being strong enough. Maintaining her pissed-off attitude, she tells her that the reason they came here was to meet Phoenix. Seeing them argue, Grania tells Arnil to stop it. She doesn't stop and continues saying that the reason they fought the bandits when they invaded because she knew Phoenix's useless friend Ellen was hiding on the second floor. She then asks him if she feels bad after hearing it all. Hearing her explanation, Ellen arrogantly asks her if she's calling her useless. Pissed off at Arnil's behavior, Ellen suddenly starts chanting the spell for a flaming arrow while asking her how a mercenary soldier like her is calling her useless. Igniting a strand of fire in her palm, she tells him that she basically insulted not only her, but also her master and all of Le Palais. Trying to calm her down, Fee tells Ellen to stop and try to understand them as their colleague has been badly hurt, and that he is sure they didn't mean it, while he thinks to himself how she's being really dramatic and that it's true that Ellen was really useless until an hour ago. Arnil then turns her head and apologizes, saying that she shouldn't have said what she said. Turning her back towards them, Ellen tells her that she's going to let it go just this once, and that there would not be a second time, and that she better watch her mouth around her. With a slightly worried expression on his face, Fee first apologizes about Anton and asks them if he heard them right that they came here because of him. Before they could even explain as to why they said that, suddenly someone interrupts them, saying that he will explain from here onwards. With a confident grin on his face, this man tells him that it's better for him to explain since he is the Count's vassal. Standing in front of him, he sternly says that he will now forward the order of Severn's Count, the Narrow Seas Conqueror, as well as the owner of South Harbor and the Salt Castle, Orb Airfried, and tells him to show some respect. Looking at that person, Fee thinks to himself that this person standing in front of him is the guard captain from the game. He then asks himself as to why he's here. Standing in front of him, the guard captain tells him to quickly prepare to head into the sewers, hearing that he thinks to himself if he really heard him speak of the sewers. Looking at the map, the guard captain then tells him that the Lord has given him the layout of the sewers that has been passed down for generations, and that he will be using the secret passageways marked in the layout to escape from the monsters and send the message he gets to the support troops that are stationed nearby. With a confused expression on his face, he tells him to wait a bit and then asks him as to what he is talking about. He then looks at the guard captain and asks him if he's saying the truth that the Lord has issued him an order. He then asks him as to why he would do something like that. The guard captain says that he made the decision after seeing the leather he brought and that he must have judged that he was fit to take on such a responsibility since he was able to hunt a monster like that all by himself. He then asks him why he chose him from amongst the hundreds of soldiers under his command. With a slightly worried expression, the guard captain says that it is because there are not enough soldiers and that they need forces to guard the nearby regions by the South Harbor and that the city needs men for patrol as well. Turning towards Grania, the guard captain tells him that it's bad enough that there might be a need for a mobilization order soon and that he should go with them. With a troubled expression on her face, Grania tells him that Sister Olga is with the church, while Gilius and Farrell joined the royal guards. Hearing that, Foy then says that he understands the case about Sister Olga, but he didn't really ever think that Gilius and Farrell would join the royal guards. He then soon realizes something and thinks to himself that though they are called the royal guards, it's more like a safety device. He continues that Grania's brother, Farrell, was taken hostage and Gilius might have been also taken as their intention would be a bit too obvious if they only took Farrell. He then suddenly mentions that it's a bit weird considering that mission was supposed to be in Chapter 2 and not currently. Looking at the guard captain, he says that he understands what he's trying to say and that he wants him to work with the mercenary soldiers to go out of the city to relay a message to the support troops. The guard captain tells him that he's exactly right. Faye then thinks to himself that things are diverging from the actual game. Looking at the guard captain, he apologizes and tells him that he first needs to take revenge for what happened at the inn. Hearing that, the guard captain tells him that the robbers are mostly dead and the ones who ran away will be caught soon. The guard captain continues and says that most of them were just homeless people who were hired for a bit of money. Faye then tells him that he needs to get rid of Ubar, who was behind the whole mess in the inn. Hearing the name Ubar from his mouth, the guard captain tells him that he too has heard of the name Ubar, the gang leader, and asks him as to what reason he would have to be the one behind this whole mess and if it is just his speculation that Ubar is the one behind it. As an answer, Fui tells him that it's because he has killed a few of his subordinates lately, and that if he were to look at the bodies outside the inn, then he will see Poison, his confidant with his henchmen. Hearing the name Poison, he asks him if he means the hooded Poison. With a hand on his chin, he then says that he's Ubar's hidden ace card, so only he should be the one who would have the knowledge of his name. He then asks him as to how he recognized him when he's just an outsider. In a stiffened tone, Fei explains himself saying that he just happened to overhear them talking amongst each other, and also by the fact that he was using poison, unrealistically. The guard captain buys his lie, saying that his explanation does make sense. Looking at him, the guard captain tells him that he seems to be misunderstanding something. Confusedly, Fie asks him as to what he means by saying that. With a stern expression on his face, he tells him that he has no choice and asks him if he really thought that he could reject the Lord's request. With a sharp look in his eyes, he continues and tells him that if he does do so, then he will guarantee it that all of South Harbor's troops and the Royal Guard will come to kill him. He then tells him to think carefully and that his choices are either to be chased and killed by the army or to take the order and succeed. Before Fui could even say anything, Ellen steps forward saying that he's wrong for thinking that they have only two choices. She then boldly says that they actually have three options in their hands. With a seriously pissed off expression on her face, she tells him that the third option for them is that they kill and burn him and all his subordinates and run away through the sewers. Looking at her, Fui thinks to himself if she really had to word it out like that. She then asks him if he wants to test out why Fi's nickname is called the Bloodied Soldier. Suddenly, with a panicked expression on her face, Grania jumps in between as tells her to calm down a bit. With a strand of fire above her index finger, she tells her to come to her side if he doesn't want to get killed with him. With a worried expression on his face, he tells her that they can just resolve this through words and that there is no need to use magic in this situation. Maintaining the flame, she asks him if that is why he was threatening them. He then says how the guard captain could not go back to the Lord empty-handed and had to compromise with them by agreeing that the Boathorn Inn would be the temporary guard outpost, and that way they won't be ambushed even if they are not there or sleeping. Turning to Ellen, he asks if they should sleep early tonight and tells her that they need to leave early in the morning the next day. With an unreadable expression on her face, she agrees with him. In his sleep, he dreams of the moment he saw Ji-won's dead body. Suddenly, he sees himself in a single lit room where the officer asks him multiple questions as to when he saw his niece the last time, and what they talked about before they parted ways, and if he remembers anything out of the ordinary in his surroundings that day. Waking out of the police station, he mentions that he doesn't know and that he can't remember anything, and that he just wants to go home and be under the blankets, away from everyone. Suddenly, someone slaps him on his cheek. It's his sister who just slapped. With an emotional voice and teary eyes, she says that she knew this current situation was going to happen someday and that she's going to kill him. Her husband keeps telling her to control herself. She then yells out saying how it's not just once or twice, but it happens with anyone who gets involved with him, and asks how it can't be his fault. With a sorrowful expression, her husband tells her that it is not his fault and keeps begging her to stop while he continues to yell out to him, telling him to let go of her and that she's going to kill him. Placing his hand on the cheek he was slapped on, he thinks to himself that she's not wrong and that it was definitely his fault that her niece died like that. Ready to hang himself with the rope, he cries out sorrowfully while saying that he's really sorry and keeps apologizing to Ji-won. He then finally wakes up from that nightmare and sits on the edge of his bed holding his face in his hands. He starts with mentioning how has dreamt many times since coming into his world but doesn't remember any. And every time he fell asleep, a character status window would appear before him. He then says how this character status window might be what's erasing his other dreams from his memory. He then mentions how he leveled up to level 12 in the battle at the Boathorn Inn, and that his passive skill, Flowing Blood, also went up by 1 point, and he assumes that he has built up a proficiency in the fight against poison, and that Ellen also awakened her magic during the battle and became a level 13 mage. He then mentions how the strangest part of it all is that only a part of his skills and stats were affected, and the rest of the points simply returned to him, and he then guesses that it must have happened to prevent the explosive growth overnight. He also then mentions how Ellen is currently capable of casting 4 spells. While looking at Ellen's sleeping figure, he mentions that it's a good thing that she's no longer just a wand holder, and that it's also a bit sad how he can't tease her about it. In the sewers, Fu, along with his teammates, are currently fighting rats inhabiting the sewers. As he and Grania dash forward with their sword and shields, he asks Arnil to keep shooting without stopping and cover them properly. With pinpoint precision, she shoots while providing them with proper cover. To keep up her part, Ellen backs them up with her wandless magic. With a grunt of frustration in his voice, he says how there are too many of them for them to handle. He then calls Luke, telling him to cast a spell and help them out. Holding his hat, he tells them to hold onto their markers as he prepares himself to cast the spell. As they all provide him with cover, he starts chanting the spell. As he finishes chanting the spell, he activates it by calling out its name. That is, Dark Magic Scream of the Abyss. And as soon as he releases his magic, it hits the rats in front of them, killing them instantly without any significant delay. Turning his face towards his teammates, he tells them that it's mostly taken care of and that they should end this and get going on their way. As they continue on their path, Fui mentions how after the battle at the Boathorn Inn and the order from the Lord, they're currently in the 4th basement floor of the sewers to look for a secret passageway. While talking with Ellen, he suddenly turns his head in light frustration after she didn't listen to him when he told her to save mana. He tells her to not mind him, and that they will talk later, hearing him say that she asks him as to what he is trying to say. With a slightly concerned look on his face, Luke asks him if he had any sort of argument with Ellen. He then thinks back to the moment when Ellen was angry that he didn't discuss it with her before bringing the Luke in and tells him how he smells like corpses. Hearing her say that he tells her to watch her mouth, she argues back asking him if he really doesn't know how people who follow the spiritual golden sect mess with corpses. With a discontent expression on his face, he tells him how they got into a bit of an argument that morning and that normally it wouldn't matter, but they can't do that during combat. He also adds in saying that he's worried that she might cause a big problem in the future. With an understanding look in his eyes, he tells him to be nice to her and that someone has to mend her wounds. Letting out a sigh, Fee tells him that he doesn't need to worry about that and tells him how she's just doing what she has to do totally fine. While Ellen looks at the ground, Fee clears himself by saying that he's not trying to underestimate her or anything. It's just a little sad to see her looking like a kitten that's scared of its owner. Luke then tells him that he thinks Fee is severely mistaken to think of her as a kitten. With a straight face, he corrects him, saying that she may be a fresh flower bud. He then says that he doesn't know what he should compare her to. He continues how she doesn't seem to have an easy life but still manages to shine brightly. Looking at her, he tells him that her wounds will disappear if someone were to take good care of her, and then she will have a soul that's stronger and purer than anyone else. Fee then tells him how he's talking about that again. As a reply, Luke tells him that it's because she has a special soul and that he is sure of it. With a slightly confused and worried look on his face, he thinks to himself, he would have thought that Luke was some cult member talking nonsense if they were on Earth. But since it's the unofficial necromancer Luke talking about souls, he can't just ignore it as worthless gibberish talk. He then asks Luke if his soul seems any different. Turning towards him, Luke asks him that he wants him to look at his soul and tell him about it. Looking at his soul, Luke tells him how it seems that he too had a pretty hard life, and that there are some strong stains on his soul, wearing a slightly doubting expression on his face. He asks him if that's how he thinks it is, while he thinks to himself whether he's looking at the soul of Kim Sung-soo or Phoenix's. With a gentle yet disturbing smile on his face, Luke reassures him by saying how he is of a noble bloodline and that he has a better physique than any blood controller that he's come across. Hearing Luke praise him, he expresses his gratitude to him by gently thanking him for saying so. Turning her head away from them, Ellen murmurs calling Luke an unpleasant old man. With Ellen in between and Luke at the very back, they continue on their path in the formation. While continuing to walk, Fee speaks up and says how it feels like they have been searching for 2 hours already and that it doesn't seem like there are any more rats around them. And before he could even finish up his sentence, something suddenly pounces at him. Instinctively, he pulls out of his sword and deflects it away in surprise from being caught off guard. With a loud womanly scream, Ellen asks as to what that horrible-looking creature is. Suddenly, Luke speaks up from behind and informs everyone that it's a slime and tells them to watch out for it. Hearing that it's a slime, Ellen shrieks in terror. Ellen suddenly falls to the ground, muttering in fear from seeing such a ghastly creature as the slime creeping towards her. Fawi suddenly calls out to her, telling her to get it together. He then asks her to chant her flaming arrow spell. As she doesn't move, having gotten frozen in fear, Grania jumps up in front of her, blocking the slime with her shield. The slime starts strongly pushing back against her shield, but she tries her best to stand her ground against it. With a strong force, the slime pushes Grania back towards Luke. She gruntingly collides with him. Stepping in front of her, Luke tells her to stand back. Like then chants up a spell, ready to fire it at the slime. With a slightly panicked look on his face, Foe hurries Ellen to chant up her flaming arrow spell and use it as soon as possible while both Luke and Grania continue defending against it. With a terrified expression on her face, she says that it might not even work on a monster so big. Seeing her be so hesitant, Fee grabs the crossbow from her and tells her he'll shoot and asks her to cast the flaming arrow spell. With tears in her eyes, she musters up the courage to chant up the flaming arrow spell. She then quickly chants the spell and fires it at the slime. Seeing the chance, Fawi then fires the glass orb with flame flower oil in it. To his surprise, the glass orb hits the slime and only cracks a little as it gets stuck in the slime's body. Ellen calls him an idiot, asking him as to what he is even doing. She then tells him that he should have shot it somewhere on the ground nearby so they could destroy it, or he should have lit it on fire before firing it at the slime. Arnil then suddenly shouts at them, telling them to get back, and suddenly shoots an arrow from between Fee and Ellen directly at the slime. Her arrow accurately hits the glass orb stuck in the slime, and it shatters, freeing up the flame flower oil inside it. The flame flower oil suddenly catches fire and bursts into a huge mountain of flames, charring up the whole slime at once. Looking at the withering sight of the slime, Ellen makes an expression of how much it disgusts her, even after it's burnt up, while Fee mentions how the content it had been digesting started pouring out of it as it melted, making Ellen express how she might vomit. Looking at the content getting poured out, he thinks to himself as to why it is so disgusting, and that all the slimes he saw in other games were cute, and that's this thing itself is making him hate this world even more. He then rushes to Grania and helps her take off her handgear and asks her if it really hurts as much as it looks. With an annoyed tone, she answers saying that it surely does. While pouring water on Burn, he looks at her with concern in his eyes and asks her if earlier was the first time seeing a slime. She replies positively saying that it was. He then tells her to not move much as he is going to apply the ointment. Looking at her, he tells how he thought of her to be more careful than that, and he asks her as to why she did that. In reply to his question, she simply tells him that she was just doing her job like she is supposed to. Being honest with him, she tells him that it wasn't exactly for Ellen's sake. Hearing that he asks him as to what it was for then, she tells him that it was for the sake of her own self-esteem. Looking down at the ground, she tells him that she's a mercenary, and that she works for other people, and that her value is decided when she defends her comrades and steps into danger for them. Even if no one's looking, she says that she can't afford to be an embarrassment as the leader of a mercenary group. After mending her wounds, he returns back to Ellen's side. Seeing him walk towards her, she asks him as to what he was talking about with that old lady. Without replying, he stands there and thinks to himself how he really doesn't want to go through that again. Jerking his head back and forth from everyone to Ellen, he slightly annoyedly asks her if he can call people by their names already and not always call them by mean names. She then tells him that if he doesn't want to tell her what they spoke about, then he can simply just say so instead of swirling around with his words. With a sigh, he sits beside her. He tells her that he was just thanking her for stepping up just then and at the inn. With a surprised expression on her face, she asks him as to why he needs to thank her for that and why he is the one thanking her. He then tells her that it's because she would never do that, considering how she hasn't even had a proper conversation with Grania. With a dried-up expression, she agrees with him. He then asks her if she truly is thankful for her and asks her to watch her tone if she is. He then tells her to at least be respectful if she won't be nice. He tells her how he's worried that she might get killed one day because of her attitude. Hearing that she asks him as to why he would think that, as a reply he tells her that he's just saying, and asks her if she can just stop calling people names. Looking down at the ground, she reacts positively and tells him that she will be careful about that. With a glimpse to the future events, he mentions how that talk was funny, as how he didn't know back then that what he said to her was something he said without even knowing his place. Walking through the sewers, he tells his teammates that they might have reached the place and that they are close to the hidden stairs that go directly from a secret passage to the 4th floor of the sewers. Looking at the path covered in rubble in front of them, he asks if the place somehow crumbled, as the map given by the Lord even shows that they are in the right place. He further says that this whole situation has just suddenly turned into a big headache. As they stood there, Fawi mentions as the narrator that the facilities of the ancient empire's sewers have existed for a very long time, and how for all those years they weren't maintained properly, so it doesn't seem strange how they have crumbled so suddenly. As they remain at one location, he mentions how it had been quite long since they entered the sewers, and that the situation didn't allow the time for them to go back up and reorganize everything again. As they continue forward, he mentions that the only way left for them was to find the secret passage by going underground, and since they had the map, they were fortunately able to specify the direction of the secret passage. So before they leave, he asks about the underground entrance since he had already gone there, and as a reply, Luke tells him that it's not exactly entering, but more like falling. He further says that the 4th floor is broken, so one goes down by falling into the groundwater-filled tunnel. Fai then lastly mentions how they even had to find the entrance to the underground themselves. With heavy, weary eyes while he walks, he thinks to himself that it's great that they came to an agreement without much conflict. He further how he thinks that they might have to go through quite a bit of trouble. Turning his gaze to Arnil and Grania, he continues that it's good how they both have good stamina, as they are both mercenaries. Looking at Ellen and Luke, he mentions how Luke will be okay, seeing how he looks considerably young and healthy for his age, but for Ellen, this sort of intense work might be arduous. While he thinks to himself that they need to quickly find the secret passage and get out of there, he suddenly hears some suspicious noises coming from ahead of them. Hearing that strange noise coming from up ahead, he tells his teammates to stop, and says that there are people there coming from up ahead and that there are at least two of them. As he tries to scout out those strangers, Hjarnil asks if those people ahead of them are mercenaries, to which Grania replies by saying that she doesn't think that the Lord hired any mercenaries other than them, and to which Luke adds up saying that there's no way the soldiers would have come down here. Looking forward, Foe tells them that judging from the direction it seems that they are headed west. Grania then adds up saying that there aren't exactly any staircases headed upstairs in the west. With a serious glint in his eyes, he says that it means that they are not exactly going up. He then tells his teammates that they should follow them and see, and that he also has a guess who it might be that is ahead of them. To the people ahead of them, one of them speaks up cursing, saying that they are in a really shitty situation. Suddenly, one of the other men speaks up asking if something is bothering him. He speaks up saying that the thought of returning to that pigsty is bothering him to death. This person is Tybalt, the quickfoot of the horseback bandits. Looking at each other, one of them tells the other to not be like that and reassures him, saying that they will soon gonna get out of this place and everything they have always wanted. With an agitated tone, Tybalt then replies by saying that whether it's good or valuables, once a bandit possesses them, it all turns into trash. Hearing him say that, the other guy thinks to himself how he's saying it while being a bandit himself. He then asks him if he heard the speech of the Baron from that time and says that they might have to stay here. Hearing that, Tybalt asks him if he remembers that their head count of 1,000 is still too much. With gritted teeth, he mentions how even the pirates are crawling in as well. He then mockingly asks him if his mother would control them if they were to come in, and he then tells him that they would be really lucky if a sword fight doesn't break out. Letting out a breath, he tells them that they should get out of her as quickly as possible, lest they run into something dangerous. Standing there beside his men, he thinks to himself that at the rate they are proceeding, there's no guarantee when and where he might die. He then mentions that it would be over for them even if they managed to take over the city, as the great nobles might bring their forces to kill them, and that he should have taken a safer job. With a discontentful tone, he tells his men to hurry and open it. He then thinks to himself that after being treated with good wine and rich food after they occupy the city, he will then take away a big share from it and run away to Middergallant. He continues how money will work in places where work won't, and so once he reaches Middergallant, he will get a shop and continue living his life in a normal way. Suddenly, his thought bubbles burst as he hears footsteps coming from behind. He then commands his men to stop. Seeing him act so cautious, they all ask him if it is a rat who he just heard. With a serious look in his eyes, he tells them that it's not a rat and that someone might be following them. He then tells his men to blow out all their torches. Heeding his command, they all throw their torches into the canal beside them. Soon after, Tybalt drinks up a green color potion. After doing so, he wipes his mouth and tells them that they will wait at the corner and ambush whoever is following them. His eyes give off a greenish light as he thinks to himself that with his potion he just took, he can currently even see clearly without any light. Looking right at the junction in front of him, he continues that judging from the sound of the footsteps, he is sure that it is definitely not a rat. While pulling out his sword, he continues if it is around 3 people and that their speed is slowing down as they are trying to take their sweet time. He continues to intently keep an eye out for anyone she steps forward from that junction and thinks to himself that he will just keep waiting, and the moment they turn at the corner, he will instantly kill them off. While keeping an eye out for those other people behind them, he suddenly hears one of them grunt in pain and turns his head to check up on them. To his surprise, one of his men suddenly falls to the ground after being hit by Arnil's arrow. He then gathers the attention of his men and informs them of the enemy being behind them. As they all turn their heads towards Arnil, a glass orb containing flame flower oil rolls up behind Tybalt. Soon after, he notices that glass orb and realizes that they were coming from both ways and have completely surrounded them. The glass orb then bursts into a long linear wall of flame, engulfing 2 of his men along with the one who Arnil shot through. Closing his eyes and putting his hand up in guard, he hears voices of people telling them to not move, and if they do, they will cut them all up. While hearing his men's screams, he tries to open up one eye as he thinks to himself that these flames are clouding his night vision created by the potion. He soon regrets taking that potion as he can't exactly see clearly because of the flames and his night vision. As he finally becomes able to see properly, he shouts out to his men telling him to come to their senses. He then suddenly notices Faye leaping towards him after having cut the throat of one of his men. Fee's image reflected in his eye as he thought to himself when he even got in front of him, and as he was just about to curse at him, Fee slashes his throat in between before he could even get his words out properly. Looking at their corpses, Fui asks Arnil if they are all taken care of. Answering her question, Arnil tells him that she took care of every one of the guys who were near. Looking at her, Fee asks her if he got hurt. Replying with a straight tone, she denies his question and tells him that she's all right. Pointing towards Grania, she tells him that she's interrogating the guy who made it out alive. She then asks him if they are going to get any useful information out of him. Walking up to him, Luke asks him how he found out about the identity of the ones in front of them. With a calm tone, he asks him as to what he means. Looking at him, Luke says that he's talking about that these people were the horseback bandits. He then further says that he was half in doubt for thinking that those people might actually be innocent. Foe then speaks up saying that it's hard to explain about how he knew and tells him that he just somewhat had a hunch of their identity. Hearing that Luke asks him if it is true that it was just a hunch that he had. Wearing a strong smile on his face, Foe tells him that he too had some doubts, and he then mentions how he thought that there really was a secret passage heading outside and that the enemies were using it. Thinking to the time when he was in his works playing the game, he mentions that though he may have made up a perfect lie, but it was because he has already gone through this in Dark World and how he always came across Tobald the Quickfoot while probing around, and that's what made him suspicious of it. With an agitated tone, Arnil speaks up, saying that whether it was his intuition or not, she refuses to partake in such kind of lunatic operations going forward. He then turns his head towards her and asks as to what she means by calling it lunatic. Even when it was successful, continuing with her tone, she tells him that he was just lucky. She then mentions how unbelievable it is that such a careless plan like that even actually succeeded. The plan being to not show any signs, taking off their gears and diverting to the backward route and then launching a surprise attack. She then irritatedly asks him as to how that even makes any sense. Ellen also speaks up and mentions how that plan was an uselessly dangerous one. Hearing her say that, he suddenly turns his head towards her with a surprised look on his face as he thinks to himself, how is currently siding with Arnil? She then asks him as to why he took all that against such no big deal guys. Done with her interrogation, Grania walks towards Fee and the group and praises Fee, saying that he did well. Looking at the dead body of Tobald, she informs them, saying that the body they are currently looking at is Tobald the Quickfoot, and that he was their head, and in terms of rank, he was within the top 5. Fee and Ellen walk towards his corpse. Fu then crouches down near it and decides to see if he has something useful on him. Ellen suddenly speaks up, saying that she can sense mana from his cape, as if it is some sort of a magical tool. Hearing her say that, he asks him if she really thinks so. Looking at his cape, she says that it might have magical resistance as it seems to be repelling the mana around it. Luke also speaks up, saying that it is not a cursed object as he can't sense any evil energy from it. Excitedly, Fee puts on the cape and asks Ellen if it looks good on him. As a reply, Ellen tells him to just keep doing what he was doing and that he might have other useful stuff on him. He then asks her if it is really that hard for her to say that he looks cool. Wearing a blank expression on her face, she tells him to stop acting like a fool. With a slight pout on his face, he murmurs saying that she doesn't have to be so mean about it. After searching through his bag, he finds several potions. Amongst them, there was one infrared potion that Arnil took, 2 wound healing potions that Grania and Ellen both took each, 2 sleeping potions, which Fee took, and 1 invisibility potion, which also Fee took. Holding her potion bottle in her hand, Ellen asks him as to what he is looking so diligently for, saying that they have already found all the stuff that could be useful. He then tells her that they should just wait for a bit for him to be done. He finally finds what he was looking for. It was a letter which he mentions as the proof of secret communication between the traders. He then reads through the contents of the letter. It says that the path used by their current trading company is narrow, risky, and unfavorable to the commute upwards, and that 4 days from the day he receives the letter, at sunset, he will secure an official route for them. It continues that the official route has several paths branching out close by, and so he would recommend that he find a path that goes in various directions. He further says that 300 bags will be enough for him to maintain speed while maximizing his profit. It continues further. He tells him to deliver the news to their friends in the south and that they will gladly cooperate with him. He adds up telling him to take special care to not mutually infringe on the interests of a third party. Faye then reads the last sentence out loud, saying that he is going to come meet him with a green flag and that he hopes that he recognizes him that way. As he finally finishes reading the letter, Ellen speaks up, saying that there is a trader in South Harbor. Looking at the letter, Fee says that she's right and that the traitor sent this letter to the horseback bandits, pretending to be from the trading company, and that if they were to interpret the letters, then friends from the south must mean pirates, and the traitor will have a green flag on him, which means that they shouldn't mess with him. With a hand on her chin, Grania says that the bandits and pirates are seemingly all on the same sides, and that there is even a traitor on the inside, and that they need to inform the Lord about it quickly. Looking at her, Arnil speaks up asking if they should complete their mission first, as they finally found the secret passage. Grania then says how they might lose the traitor if they were to delay any longer. Arnil speaks up, saying that it won't be too late for them to inform the Lord after the secret meeting with the reinforcements. Grania argues back how they might be guarding the exit of the secret passage. Arnil tells them that they can just skip past. Ellen then speaks up, saying that they should first check the secret passage. Hearing her say that, Fee asks her why they should do that first. She then tells him that if things get complicated, they would need to run away, and that the more choices they have, the better it is for them. Hearing her reason, Fee thinks to himself that what she means if whether they have been hired or not, and that they need an escape route in case they need to run away. He continues that in Ellen's position, she doesn't exactly care about what happens to South Harbor, because her target is to get to the Chapter 4 area of Raven's Cliff. Looking at Arnil and Grania, he says that they are currently done with the mapping job, while he thinks to himself how he truly had no thoughts of going up on land. Putting the letter in his pocket, he says that they will check out the secret passage's exit, and if the horseback bandits have blocked it, then they will retreat, and if that is not the case, then after they get reinforcements, they will deliver the letter to the Lord themselves. He then tells them that they should hurry up and that after meeting with the reinforcements, they will get back to the city in 3 days at the latest. He thinks to himself that delivering this letter he has to the Lord currently is highly likely to be a vain effort. Grania then turns her head and says, if that's how they are going to do it, then she should just quickly take care of the one she was interrogating. Holding her sword down, she walks towards that person while he asks her as to why she is coming his way. With a hint of fear in his eyes, he reminds her about how she said that she is going to let him live. Emanating a terrifying aura around her, she tells that she doesn't exactly have a choice than killing him. Seeing her murderous intent, he begs her to spare him as he has already told her everything he knew. Foe then tells Luke that they're done gathering all the corpses and that he's going to leave it to him to take care of them. Nodding with his hat, he says that he understands his task and tells him that he can consider it done. Holding out his hand, Luke chants the spell for the black magic, Decaying Touch. As he releases the spell, all the corpses in front of them vanish into thin air. With a slightly concerned look on his face, Foe thinks to himself that to stop any other variables coming up, they killed the captor and took care of the dead bodies. He then mentions how killing an opponent irks, but he still does that as it can't be helped in some situations. He then tells everyone that they should hurry while he thinks to himself that it's good that he knows the future story of the Dark World, but it isn't a perfect prediction of the future either. He then mentions that in the game, the proof of secret communication that he acquired upon catching Tobald was a scroll letter that the horseback bandits sent to the traitor in the city, and what he actually got this time was the traitor's reply. He continues how this must mean that the traitor already received the letter from the horseback bandits, and Tobald was on his way back after receiving the traitor's reply, and that it didn't happen in the existing scenario and no one knows how it will affect the story, or if such an event repeats itself, then the story itself might change. As he walks forward, he further mentions that if such a scenario were to unfold, then the future that he knows will not exist anymore, and that he will have to make sure that he doesn't waste time in the future. While walking forward, they encounter a worm-like monster who easily gets killed by Arnil's arrow. Holding the torch in his hand, he puts his foot over the worm and declares it to be dead. His gaze then suddenly falls on Ellen's reaction towards it, as he makes an irritated face saying that those worms and monsters are really disgusting. Letting out a laugh, he points at her, asks if this worm also scares her like the slime. Seeing him laugh at her, Ellen speaks up in an angered tone and tells him to stop laughing. Fee continues laughing as he asks how he can even stop laughing after she made him laugh, and he then tells her that she's being a bit too mean. As Ellen stands back with others, she irritatedly calls him a jerk for making fun of her. Back to his serious mode, Fee says that they should just quickly head forward on their path. Fee then suddenly notices that they are at a crossroad and that they will have to choose between those two paths. Looking ahead, he says that the right side is the north and the south side has the sea, and so they should go towards the north. Walking up close, Grania asks him as to how he knows that the right side is north. With a slightly surprised expression on his face, He says he just does, and that he simply just had a good sense of direction. As Fee and Grania both continue their talk, while Arnil seriously checks something on the ground. Throwing away the dirt off her palm, he confirms that Fui is right with his sense of direction. Surprised by that, Grania asks her as to why she thinks so. Holding onto her torch while dusting off her palm, she tells her that the dirt on the right seemed less moist while the dirt on the left seemed the slightest bit sloped downwards, and that she doesn't think that Fee's hunch is totally wrong. Ellen suddenly speaks up from behind how she has heard that blood magic develops strange foretelling ability, but it seems a bit too extreme in his case. Turning his head towards her, he asks her as to what is so extreme about it. With a slightly annoyed expression on her face, she mentions how he seems to know unbelievable things in advance and asks him if they can really call something like that as foretelling. As she says so, he thinks to himself if he is a bit too careless with her around. Wearing a slightly worried expression on his face, he tells her that he has been good at random choices since he was little, to which she replies by mentioning how he figured out the name of a poison just by looking at it a few times. Few speaks back saying that he guessed it from his movements and the poison on the weapon. Suddenly, before their argument could continue any further, Grania jumps in between and tells Ellen that she doesn't think whether Fai is a gambler or a prophet is important at that moment, and tells her that they should talk as they move, as they are already running late. With an irritated tone, Ellen asks her if she's trying to tell her to stop uselessly wasting time, and she then asks her as to who she even is to tell her what to do. With a slightly worried expression on her face, she tells her that she didn't mean it like that. Suddenly, Ellen once again rudely speaks up, telling her to shut it and go stay in a corner and to stop saying useless shit. Annoyed and pissed by her rude behavior, Fee grabs her by her cheek and squeezes it tightly. She annoyedly says that it hurts and asks him as to what he is even doing. Fee then reminds her how they decided that she would not talk like that. Continuing with her loud, rude tone, she asks him what she even did wrong when she didn't even call her an old maid. Raising his voice, he asks her if she really thinks it's all okay. Only if just doesn't say that word, he then warns her, telling her to watch her tone. Arguing back, Ellen asks him if he wants her to act subserviently like she's her master. She then turns her back towards him. Seeing her pout like that, he asks her again if she really does not remember their promise from earlier. Seeing that she's mad, he tells her that he's not blaming her, and he then say that he can see that she's getting a bit nicer, and that he knows well that she's making an effort. He then speaks further, saying that though he wants to compliment her more, they currently need to hurry up as they seem to be behind schedule. He then tells her that he will give her an explanation about her questions later as well, and that they should go. Facing Fee again, she asks him if he really thinks that his compliments mean anything. Seeing her facial expression and her way of speaking, Fee realizes that she is definitely not mad at him anymore. Looking forward, he tells everyone that they should go as they can't afford to take any more time. As he says so, he suddenly notices something while looking in Luke's direction. Looking at Luke's serious face, he thinks to himself if Luke is in deep thought about something. Noticing him looking at him, Luke suddenly nods to him with his hat. Luke then speaks up, telling him that they should leave for the exit quickly. Fia replies by agreeing with him while he thinks to himself if Luke just complimented him with that hat gesture of his, and he then mentions how it definitely feels strange. As they continue to walk forward, holding up his torch, Fo thinks to himself that they are slowly starting to hear the wind and smell the sea, and mentions that it means that they are getting closer to outside. Glancing at Ellen, he speaks of how she's maintaining to keep up with them, and that it may be because of the boost in stats from the awakening that time. He continues further, mentioning how it's definitely more tiring the longer it takes. As he thinks about how they need to start thinking about camping, he suddenly hears a voice. As he is walking in front of them, he tells everyone to stop and informs them that there are 2 guards ahead of them. Stepping forward, Grania asks him as to how many of them there are. Foe tells her that he can hear 2 voices. He adds further, saying that there can probably be more. Handing his torch to her, he tells her to wait for him right there with everyone and that he will go and check it out. Walking on his toes, he finally reached the end of the secret passageway while he hid away from the guards who were standing guard in front of the secret passageway's exit. Looking at them, he thinks to himself that it's clear that these guards belong to the horseback bandits and that they have even fully set up the exit with a campsite. Looking at them, he continues that judging from the voices that he can hear, there are at least 10 people. As those guards continue with their position, one of them speaks up asking as to what this smell around him. Hearing him say that, the other guard speaks up and asks him back about what smell he is even talking about. As an invisible footstep falls on the ground, One of them asks if someone added wet wood to the fire. The other guard also asks as to what this weird smell around them is. Hiding behind a thick branch of bushes, Faye thinks to himself as he mentions how they didn't even know what a person passed by them. He then mentions that he should rather be thankful to Tobald. With a grin on his face, he further mentions as to who could have even knows that the invisibility potion would be used in such a manner. Fei tells them about the condition outside, and Ellen whispers saying that they should just go back as they might get trapped in such a narrow terrain. Grania tells them that they might be able to handle it quite well if they just do a good job in hiding themselves. Holding the invisibility potion in his hands, he tells them that they should use that to hide themselves from those horseback bandit guards. With a hand on her chin, Ellen says that he's right and that they can definitely find a solution with that, heading that Fee asks her if he has a good idea regarding it. Telling him that she does have a good idea, she turns her back towards them and starts searching for something through her backpack and tells them to wait for her. Holding a small pouch in her hand, she tells him that the pouch contains the solid form of a paralyzing drug. She further mentions that she didn't have the time to grind it into a powder, and that they will have to make do with what they have. Taking the pouch from her hand, Fui asks her as to what she even wants to do with it. Hearing him ask a question like that, she just stood there in silence without even uttering a single word. With an unbelieving expression on her face, she tells him that he is ridiculously bad at reading the situation. She then says that she's just going to explain this once and tells him to listen carefully to what she says. After walking past the guards, he tiptoes towards the bonfire that they have set up. As he does so, he repeats Ellen's plan in his head, that he will have to first take the invisibility potion and get out through the exit as fast as possible, sneak into their camp, and then throw the paralyzing pills that she gave him into the bonfire. While sneakily walking towards the bonfire, he suddenly hears some weird noises which makes him turn his head towards the direction the noise was coming from. He soon notices a couple of horses tied to a tree. Looking at them, he asks himself if those horses smell his body odor. One of the men sitting near the bonfire says that it looks like some insect bit them. With a hint of worry in his tone, the man says that the riders might blame them if those horses somehow end up disturbing them in their sleep. Looking at them leave, Fee lets out a sigh of relief as he mentions how much of a relief it is to him that they are just leaving on their own. Seeing that they are gone, he quickly throws the paralyzing pills into the bonfire just as Ellen instructed him to. While keeping an eye on them through the bushes, he thinks to himself that he just needs to wait until the paralyzing drug works on all of them, and then he will send his teammates the signal to come to him. Looking around, one of the guards speaks up asking his partner as to what that bad smell even is and where it is coming from. The other guard then speaks up and asks as to where the guy who is in charge of fire even is. Suddenly, one of them looks up and gets surprised to see something up there as he asks loudly as to what that thing is in front of him. The thing he looked at was none other than Fee himself. Looking at Fee, the guard screams in terror. On seeing Fee, he calls Fee a monster. Soon after that, one guard noticed him, others too eventually did the same. While looking at him, those horseback bandits shout out informing their fellow comrades that they are under attack. Covered in a green aura, Foe thinks to himself, what even is happening? With gritted teeth, he continues further asking himself if this option is the crappy magic potion that only lasts for a short find. He then screams in his own mind as he mentions how she can't just turn him into a people magnet. Holding his shield up, Foe stands there valiantly, easily killing the horseback bandits while he continues to ooze out the excess of green aura around him. He then stands there in front of the bushes holding his sword and shield, while the horseback bandits loudly shout in anger as they ask their own comrades to not just stand back, while others ask as to what the archer is even doing in a situation like this, while others shout out, telling others that they should retreat back. Holding his shield right in front of his face, he thinks to himself if he got caught a bit too early, and how no one is losing consciousness, he continues that he will somehow have to keep their attention on him and that in case if even one of them escaped, then a whole swarm of horseback bandits might come running at them. He then soon notices a group of people walking towards him while shouting at their men to get out of their way. Looking at them, he thinks to himself that these people are the big shots of the horseback bandits. He then looks at their weapons and mentions that horseback bandits usually use swords and spears as their weapons, and then he comments at them, calling them barbaric for choosing up a weapon like a shovel. With a fiery rage in his eyes, he looks at them and thinks to himself how he can feel something boiling in him. He then suddenly lets out a loud war cry, emitting blood-red aura around him. Suddenly, an arrow hits one of the big shots, making the other around him flinch. Looking at Arnul, one of the bandits frustratingly asks where they are even popping up from. Looking at Fee's whole group, They realize that they all broke through the secret passage. Suddenly, Fee leaps forward and kicks one of them on the chest. The other big-shot bandit looks at how gruesomely Fu kills his fellow bandit. He then suddenly falls to the ground on his back, surprised as to why everyone is collapsing. As he tries to get away from Fee, he realizes that his body has somehow been paralyzed. With blood-stricken eyes, Fee slowly walks towards his fear-stricken prey as he tries to get away from him. Crying his eyes out, he asks the light that shines upon the human world to save him from the monster behind him. Before he could speak any further, Fui stabs him with his sword and kills him. Looking away, he thinks to himself that the paralyzing is starting to show its wonders. Looking at Ellen and Arnold working together, he mentions that everyone seems to be doing a good job. Turning to see Grania and Luke working together, he mentions how this is not a total failure of an attack. He mentions how he feels after having killed so many people. As he cleans his sword, he asks him if he's okay. As she holds his hand, he reassures her that he's okay. She then warns him to not use magical items recklessly anymore. She then asks if it stings or itches. He simply shakes to that question. She asks him if he feels nauseous or dizzy. He once again reassures her that he is totally fine. Arnil suddenly notices some horseshoe prints on the ground. Turning to Fee, she tells him that one of bandits took a horse and escaped, and that before he returns with more bandits, they need to run away. Luke then asks Fee about his thoughts on this matter. As a reply, he tells him that they first need to get support. Looking at the horses, Luke asks that they should ride the horses that they bandits left behind. They then continue on their path through the forest. Fee gently smiles, thinking that it's a relief that he knows how to ride a horse. He then mentions that it's a good thing that his character Phoenix belongs to a squire family, so he naturally knows how to ride a horse. He then mentions that they loaded the remaining corpses on the horses and released them, hoping that they would slow down the bandits that were chasing them. While riding through, he mentions how he was afraid that he might run into the fixed-named enemy Pagano, the leader of the horseback archers. Looking at a small village ahead of them, he mentions that they are almost there, and that at their rate, they would make it to reinforcements in a hitch. Fee's ear suddenly twitches as he hears something. Ellen asks him if something is wrong. Worriedly, he tells her how he feels like he just sensed someone. He suddenly hears galloping sounds. He then hears the bandits' shouts to not let them get away. On hearing that, Fee looks back, knowing that they might actually get caught. They see the horseback bandits running after them. Suddenly, an archer aims to fire at them. To defend against the incoming arrow, he turns and holds his shield up. Suddenly, a spear pierces through his shield and stops right in front of his face. Luke tells him to give the signal. Luke then suddenly casts and activates a spell. Looking back, he sees that those bandits seem to be in trouble. Despite Luke's magic, some bandits pass through and continue following them. Suddenly, another spear gets launched at them. As it hits Grania's horse, she falls down. Gritting his teeth, he then suddenly makes his horse stop in its tracks. He then jumps off the horse and tells Ellen to take the reins. As she turns her head back towards him, he tells her to hold the reins right and get out of there. Grabbing a spear, he stands against them. He then throws the spear and hits the exact bandit who injured Grania's horse. He then takes his stance against them and lets out his blood-red aura. As he stood there, bandits eventually came running to him. He then swings his sword and kills them along with their horses. The killed bandit then falls to the ground. He then holds his shield up and defends against the other bandit. He then suddenly coughs up blood through gritted teeth. He then suddenly rolls a couple of meters back. The bandit who hit him praises him, calling him a sturdy guy. He then suddenly grabs the spear coming directly at him. He gets hit, he hits back and kills the bandits around him. He stands there breathing heavily in front of them. He then lets out a loud war cry with glowing eyes. The bandits snicker at him, calling him an ogre and that they should surround him and kill him. He then looks at Grania and calls her out in hope that she isn't dead. He suddenly sees an arrow hit one of the bandits. It's the royal knights who have finally come to his rescue. The knights then attack the bandits, killing them off one by one. Seeing them having come to his help, he finally lets out a sigh of relief. One of the knights then asks him if he has come from the South Harbor as well. Looking at him, Foe thinks to himself how that armor of this knight in front of him feels somewhat familiar. With blood flowing down his head, he tells him that he has. The knight then tells him to get on the horse. Foe speaks up, requesting him take his comrade, Grania, with him first. The knight then asks him if she is alive, to which Fee replies by saying that she is, and then he tells him to get on the horse. The knight then calls out to one of his comrades, Raunel. Ranel then tells Fee to quickly get on his horse. The knight then calls for all of his forces to return to the post. And soon they all finally reach their post. Archers stationed at the watchtowers then get ready to fire at the horseback bandits. As they get rained by arrows, they start to retreat. The horseback bandits then start shooting burning arrows at the knight's posts. Faye's eyes then suddenly fall upon the water spirit right above his head. Floating in the sky, the water spirit then suddenly starts making it rain to extinguish the fire. Seeing that the water spirit extinguished the fire, the bandits decide to retreat. Sighing that it is finally over, Faye falls to the ground. He suddenly hears someone call out his name and he turns his head in the direction. It's Ellen, Luke, and Arnil. Ellen scolds him for leaving off all by himself. Stutteringly, she asks him if he is okay. Faye replies by saying that it's not serious enough to kill him. Looking at his teammates' faces, he thinks to himself how he just barely made it. Ranel suddenly approaches them praising their camaraderie. Faye then expresses his thanks to Sir Ranel for helping him out. Ranel then corrects him saying that he's not a knight but just a soldier. Looking at Ranel, he thinks to himself if he's a noble family's private soldier. Turning his head, he asks all of them to follow him. He informs them that their lord is looking for them. Faye and his teammates follow Ranel. While supporting Foe, Arnil thanks him for not abandoning Grania. Faye tells her that there's no need to thank him for doing the obvious. Ellen then calls him pointing at something ahead of them. She is pointing at the flag and tells him that there must be someone of royalty in this post. Faye then remembers that this place is called the Prince's Garrison, and that it was the place to meet reinforcements. They then finally reach the tent where the lord that Ranel spoke of is waiting for them. Pushing aside the tent's screen, he enters. He sees that it's the knight who he spoke to a while ago. Suddenly, a person asks him what he is looking for. Faye recognizes that person is a great knight, Anchor Whitestone. Ranel then answers him saying he's looking for Sir Anchor, the one of the tent they are in. Surprised, Faye exchanges glances with Ellen and Arnil, asking if it's really the great Anchor. Arnil then asks him forgiveness for the discourtesy she showed him. Anchor then speaks up saying that he'll decide whether to forgive her or not depending on their answer as to why the bandits were chasing them. Faye then tells him that they're messengers from South Harbor and that they're here with a letter from the Lord. Another knight steps forward asking if Count Savern knew about them being here, to which Faye says that he's not sure of their identity, but he estimated they were reinforcements sent by a nearby lord, Sir Langbold. Showing his face, the iron-slashing knight Langboldershore asks him if he knows him. Faye says that he made a guess through the rumors he heard of a Sir Langbold and how he's a man of outstanding combat ability. He then asks him if he also knows who the master of their garrison is. Faye tells him that he has a rough idea about it. Suddenly, a knight draws his sword against him. The knight then says that he's suspicious and asks the soldiers around to tie him. Seeing the sword right in front of him, he thinks to himself if he acted like he knows a bit too much. Suddenly, the knight who rescued him and Grania speaks up, saying that it's not necessary, and asks Sir Liam to stop it. The knight then says that his brother would never go so far as to send someone from Savern. Sir Liam heeds his command and stands back. The knight then asks him his name. Faye replies, saying that it is Phoenix. He then asks if he has a surname. Faye denies that. He then asks if he is a mercenary, to which he agrees. He then says that there's no fool in this world who'd use a mercenary skilled in the art of blood control sound as an assassin. He then asks Faye if he has a guess who the master of their garrison is. Bowing his head, he greets the prince, saying that he knows who their garrison is. The prince then lets out a satisfied laugh. He then greets them formally as Prince Ulrach Lionel, son of King Lionel III of Millenori. They all get on their knees in his presence. Faye then says that it is an honor for him to have met His Highness the Third Prince. Ulrach then tells him to raise his head and that there's a lot that he would like to hear from him. He then mentions that this prince would later be known as the King of Slaughter. He then mentions his first encounter with Ulrach while playing Dark World and how his Palace of Slaughter truly petrified him. Lying under the starry sky, he mentions that he might be able to stop him from turning into the King of Slaughter if he were to kill him right this moment. Ellen suddenly stabs his stomach with her elbow while calling out to him. As he gets angry at her for doing that, she simply says that it was because he didn't listen to her no matter how much she called. She then says seeing him make a stupid face made her wonder if he wasn't okay. He then mentions how they were treated by a priest and rented a room to rest after delivering the letter to the prince. Faye and Ellen, and both sitting on a bench outside as they can't fall asleep. He then asks her why she can't sleep, even after going through all that mess the whole day. She tells him that she can't sleep with the reeking smell of corpses around her.